Good evening, everyone. One moment. Now we should have music. Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to The Life and Suffering of Sir Brante, a sort of visual novel set in a fantasy world inspired by Western Europe in the early modern period. Last time we went through young Sir James's childhood and adolescence. He's now 16 years old and going to university or something similar, a larger institution for studies outside his hometown. Let's see how this chapter opens, and after that, let's go through the status and recap a bit more. Leaving home, the driver flicks the reins, the carriage slowly sways as it starts moving away from your home. You stick your head out through the window and wave goodbye to your family. Nathan is running after the carriage with Thomas's young brother in tow, tears glistening in their eyes. It hurts to leave your home behind. Ahead lies Eterna, the imperial capital. You have often read about it and heard stories from Father and Stephen. It is a city that surpasses Anisot enormously in terms of size, age, wealth, and beauty. But what is it really like there? What kind of life awaits you there? What will you learn there? And where will your actions take you? You pass the old walls of Anisot. Somewhere within them is the old fortress you and Thomas built together out of some old wooden planks, now left to the care of your younger brothers. You two are adults now. Perhaps your fortress will crumble, now abandoned, or perhaps your brothers will continue what you started. Who knows? You look down at your hands, knuckles covered in scars from straight antics, fingers stained with ink. Mother gave you a cross to wear away from home, and now you can feel its warmth against your chest. Your family counts on you, even though they all wish a different future for you. But they are behind you now, in Anisot. From this point on, only you will decide which road you will take. This is a journey you prepared for throughout your entire childhood. Ahead of you lie many years in the capital, years that will determine your fate and your place in society. We have new personal qualities, and these are your new personal qualities in adulthood, which you will use for the rest of your life. They are the sum of qualities that you have gained in childhood and adolescence. This will be interesting. These are our actual current stats. So, we have fairly good diplomacy. I wonder if these can change. I would imagine so. Our manipulation is not useless, but certainly nothing to write home about. Judge, conspirator, these are perhaps career paths that we can take. Our theology is quite high. Not amazing, but for a 16-year-old, perhaps quite high. The Inquisitor. Our valor is quite weak. Not useless, but I do not think that young Sir James should become a soldier, or perhaps not even a judge. His scheming is perhaps his weakest ability. Unsuited for a conspirator, perhaps. His eloquence is also not particularly strong. He would need this to become a great inquisitor, so perhaps we shall have to practice. So, let us look at the stats that we have. James Brante, age 16, has died once, rescuing the neighborhood girl Sophia from being run over by horses and being run over by the same horses himself. James met Sophia one more time after that, when she was escaping the son of the local provincial governor, a blue-skinned creature, an Arcnian, a superhuman, but only in physique. This individual was an extremely immoral individual, not the kind of person you would like to have as a hereditary monarch. Luckily, James was able to help Sophia escape, but we shall see if and when we meet Sophia again. Our family has little honor, moderate wealth, but great peace in the family. The heir is our older brother, Stephen, the protege of our late grandfather. Our grandfather Gregor is dead, but not quite gone from this world. His spirit gave some sort of message to young James after his burial. We were not friends with Gregor under any circumstances, but he did respect parts of our family. We have never met Stephen's mother Amalia. She died before our birth. We have a positive relationship with our father Robert. Here we were able to help him resist his father in his attempts to break up the happy marriage of our parents Robert and Lydia. Our relationship with our mother Lydia, on the other hand, is as strong as possible. She was a lowborn, and as a result of this, we and all of our other siblings are not quite nobles. We have some social advantages that actual commoners would not have, but we are not officially a noble. Our older brother Stephen is. Our relationship with him is mildly positive. We are not, but we may yet become one. Our younger brother Nathan, we also have a strong relationship with, but he will stay in Anisot. Our older sister Gloria, we also have a positive relationship with, but she will also stay in Anisot. Thomas Werro is our long-time childhood friend. We befriended after having a fist fight with him after our younger brothers had fought each other. He is coming to study with us. Neighborhood girl Sophia, not a childhood friend, I would not say. After all, we knew her for such a long time as children. She has... spoilers! In the capital she became a rebel. This is no wonder, as she was apparently heavily abused by her employer Dorius Otton, an Arcnian. Augustine is a family friend. We have a positive relationship with him. Whether we will see him or not, we do not know. Octavia Milanidas remembers us after an episode at the fountain, where we attempted to give her back her lost handkerchief. She had her guards beat us up for daring to speak to her as a commoner. Jean is a priestly acolyte who tried to entice us to follow the state church of our country. We did not, and as a result, we have a slightly negative relationship with her. It seems likely that our relationship will become more and more strained in the future, as young James does not appear to be on the way to adhere to the state church, and is more likely to become a reformer. And finally, Dorius Otton is a despicable person with whom we have a mildly negative relationship. However, he is a physical superhuman and trying to battle him might be a bad idea. Here on the map, we will be living in Eterna, and we are moving from Anisot. So this is quite the path to take to Eterna, the capital of the entire empire. Our province is overseen by Archduke Milanidas, the father of Octavia. Most likely not a particularly likable individual, but we do not know him. The new patriarch is called Cassius. He is a traditionalist, a follower of the traditional state church. His predecessor was a reformer, but his predecessor was assassinated during a public speech. The political situation in the province is fairly mild. The overseer, Archduke Milanidas, is in power, but there is the political situation is stable. The church, as well, is fairly strongly in power. Our area is wealthy as a result of some highly dangerous but also highly profitable mining operations. But there is some discontent in our land because of the very same social and political issues that arise from this deeply dangerous way of mining for mining with gunpowder. Now we are ready to begin the third chapter. You left your hometown to study in the imperial capital. What life awaits you in Eterna? What will you study and where will you go? When push comes to shove, which road will you take? Your youth awaits, and the years to come will determine the nature of your destiny and your place in society. We have 4 life paths that we will be able to choose. We can remain a commoner, perhaps. We can become a priest. We have our theology is strong enough. If we want to take this path, we should try to work on our eloquence as well. But is this something that James would do? It seems that becoming a priest would mean a surrender to the state church. Path of the nobleman, we might become a judge, like our father. Seems unlikely. Or we may die. Let us see. I imagine these special events are not of particular importance to us as we are attempting to play this relatively blind. We have our personal qualities once again, and we begin. Arrival in the capital. It takes a whole month to reach Eterna. You and Thomas spend the days wagging your chins and staring at the scenery as your carriage makes its way along the road and towards the next province. Soon it crosses from the familiar barren, arid lands of Magra to the stately mountains of Illyria. During one of your many stays at a roadside inn, the two of you even manage to share a whole bottle of strong wine and keep the secret from the servant who drives the carriage. Adult life feels positively intoxicating. Soon, I tell you, soon we'll be there, and I learn my sword as soon as I get accepted into the military academy. You'll see. And then nobody's gonna walk over me, all over me like I'm some commoner. You keep rehearsing everything they taught you in school. Soon you are almost at the end of your long journey. You have left behind the arid rocks of Magra, the mountains of Illyria, and the flooded meadows of Agnia. Eterna, the capital, is right ahead. Situated at a junction between the Reglata and Talarina rivers, the city is vast. Three majestic stone bridges keep its three shores interconnected. Smooth stone paves the main city streets. Gilded moldings decorate the buildings. Towering pillars reach high in the sky. Your carriage takes you past a spacious park with marble fountains and intricately trimmed bushes. On the streets you see ornately decorated carriages bearing Agnian coats of arms and abundant merchants' tents, filling the streets with beckoning cries and unusual sights. The spires of the ancient temples dot the city skyline. The carriage comes to a halt on a large city square with a towering marble fountain. The coachman says you have arrived. Thomas is to apply to the military academy. The academy barracks are 2 streets away. Your lodging house is in the alleyway nearby. A room has already been reserved for you. You get out onto the street and say brave goodbyes to each other. You promise to meet again after the entrance exams. Then your friend disappears in the crowded streets of the capital. You are left to your own devices in this vast city. A group of nobles walks past. They are dressed in well-fitting clothes decorated with gems and golden thread. You are not even noticed. Street urchins chase a dog down the alleyway. Soldiers of the Imperial Legion are marching to fifes and drums towards the barracks. Humble pilgrims are gathering to the great temple of the twins. I believe fife is a kind of a whistle or flute. There are the sounds of music and fountains and the smells of baked bread and garbage trains. You quickly check in at the lodging house, then go back outside. The sun is setting. The street lights come to life. Merry music fills the taverns. Couples and noble coaches with tinted windows fill the streets. Shadows and hushed voices and laughter fill the parks. You are all alone with this city, so vast and unfamiliar. You take a look around, determined to fill your first night in the capital with memories. You see young nobles gathered by the fountain, talking and making jokes excitedly. One of them keeps glancing at the clock tower. They are about your age. Their clothes are hand-tailored, and 2 of them bear noble swords. They seem to be waiting for something. Might be a good idea to make their acquaintance. It would be most helpful to develop a familiarity with the influential nobles of the capital. Loud music from a large establishment on the corner distracts you for a moment. The servants have just opened the shutters to air out the hall. It seems there will be a gathering inside. People from various estates greet each other as they take their seats. A servant by the door of the establishment hails you. Sir Gert Arkwright will be making a speech about the rights of the common estate. If you wish to listen, you'd better get inside quickly. Then you look at the great temple of the twins at the far end of the street. The pillar shines in the evening dusk above it. The temple gates are open and worshippers are flocking inside. There are too many people for an ordinary service. This must be something important. What do they preach here in the capital? What do they say about the new faith and the teachings of Patriarch Fotis, the reformer? You snap out of your reverie when you hear loud laughter. A group of young men dressed in the colors of the Imperial College have made the acquaintance of several lovely girls. They are making their way down the road, united by merriment. One of the girls smiles at you. It is an invitation to join them. They turn the corner and walk away. You can still hear their voices ringing and echoing throughout the street. A night of revelry and jolly. Loud fun doesn't sound half bad. This is your first night in Eterna. No matter what you choose, you will remember it for a long time to go. Come. It seems that deeply religious individuals such as young James, who himself had unusual and authentic first-hand experiences with the gods in his childhood, would visit the great temple of the twins. You follow the worshippers and barely make it into the overcrowded great temple of the twins. Even this enormous hall of stone is not enough to fit so many people. The commoner's half is absolutely packed. There are no free seats left at all. The crowd is buzzing in anticipation. You hear reverent whispers. The preacher for today's evening service is Father Ulrich, one of the leaders of the punitive branch of the church. So, someone we would likely disagree with. A man dressed in a long black cassock and wearing a silver cross appears on the raised platform by the altar. He bears a rolled scroll on his side, held tight by a silver seal. You try your best to see his face, chiseled features, sunken cheeks, bald head. Father Ulrich looks at the crowd with his steely eyes. The hall falls silent. Ye who live in Eterna, I see before me the faces of true believers. We are not united before the twins, yet in our faith in them we are united. The twins are the guiding light in the darkness of our life. The twins are the only incontrovertible truth of this world. So says Isaiah in his first book. The twins are law and will and love. But the will is above all. From this will came law, and love, too, was born from the will. The twins had the will to bring us those three gifts, and so the great Archnean Empire came to be. The twins had the will to lead us, and so we are no longer lost in the darkness. Now we are guided by true faith. The twins brought their teachings to us when the empire was founded, and so they created the very foundations of our lives. The knowledge of the lots and of the hereafter and of the paths we must follow in life. This is their legacy and their gift to us. So heed these words, you who are righteous and live by your lot. You shall be brought to the peak of the shining pillar for an eternity of bliss. But those who live in defiance of your lot, you shall endure eternal suffering at the foot of the pillar. Every soul will face the stern gaze of the twins upon their true death, and answer for every misdeed. There is no escape from this judgment. So heed my will, for it is the will of the twins. Follow your lot in life, and follow the word of Isaiah, and then you shall reach the peak of the pillar, awaited by our gods. You have heard these words many times, in the temple, in your theology lessons from mother, and in the pages of books. But Father Ulrich's speech reaches far, far deeper. It seeps into the very hidden depths of your soul, breaking, binding you to the will of these words. There is no resisting this will. Father Ulrich is right. There is no task more crucial than living by your lot, so you may face the judgment of the twins in the hereafter. All doubt you had before your visit to the temple is gone. You feel joy at each word spoken by Father Ulrich. The truth was revealed to you all along, yet you allowed it inside you only now. You know the twins are always watching over you, always guiding, always protecting, always judging. The sermon ends in the small hours of the night. The sky is tinted by the pink shade of the coming sunrise, the shining pillar standing tall against the heavens. You return to your lodging, prepare all your things for the coming day, and drift off to sleep, free of any fear or doubt. Both our theology and eloquence have improved at the cost of some willpower. We arrived in the capital. Luke's sermon. You have spent the last 3 days studying books, but today you decide to take a walk through the streets of Eterna. They are full of life as usual. You proceed to the square next to the lodging house. The procession of priests walks through the square. You notice that one of them holds a banner of the new faith, an open book. This is the same banner that was behind Patriarch Fotis on the day of his assassination. Let us see if we are quite as convinced by the older religion as Ulrich led us to believe. The crowd immediately gathers around them. Many people are looking at an icon painting on a small pedestal, depicting a grey-haired man with glowing green eyes. You recognize the face of the late Patriarch Fotis. A man with a thick beard appears by the icon painting. His broad shoulders bear a white and gold cloak with the coat of arms of the capital province embroidered on it. He is Luke, Patriarch of Agnia. He casts his stern gaze over the crowd. I speak to all who live within the sight of the shining pillar. Exactly 1 year ago we lost Fotis, Patriarch of the Magra province, mentor of the new faith. Patriarch Fotis was the first to see the books of Isaicius for nothing but the words of a man, not the words of the twins themselves. He was the first to tell people to seek the path of the gods in their own hearts instead of blindly following the lots, to seek answer in the lives of the twins and in their own hearts rather than the words of priests. Through Patriarch Fotis, we were able to see the truth. Through his death, we saw that his words are not heresy, they are the truth that used to be obscured by Isaicius' lies. And now I bring good news. Patriarch Junius Diamant has seen to it that our teacher will be canonized as a saint. Yes, Junius Diamant, an Agnian from a great dynasty and the Patriarch of Astinia, has joined the new faith himself. And through this, we hope that the entire empire will soon see that our doctrine is the truth. We are free from the shackles of the lots. We are equal before the twins. With each day, more and more people hearken to the truth, and one day the entire empire will hear our call. So let us pray, my brothers. Coming from Keris Anya, what is your agenda today? I shall have to think about this, as agenda is a word with many meanings. The original meaning would be things to further. I think my thing to further today is completing the youth of Sir Brante. The thing to complete for young Sir James, perhaps, might be finding the truth of his religion. Within a couple of days, he is having wildly differing but apparently quite meaningful experiences with his religion. Let us see where they go. And Luoxing comments per Testantism, which appears to be correct. I also find that these people resemble a certain religious and political group of the early modern period. The believers around you bow their heads in prayer and thank the twins, not for the lot they were given as they usually would, but for the chance to choose their own path. The Patriarch's sermon is inspiring. It compels your hands to meet in a sign of prayer. It compels your lips to repeat the words of the new faith. Patriarch Luke's sermon forms a cadence, and your heart beats in time with it now. This is actually quite insightful from the makers of this game, as particularly Latin prayers, Christian prayers, Latin language, I mean, um, are written in a poetic meter that, according to people who study these things, I'm not an expert on this, um, mirror the heartbeat of the human, and assumably this would make them feel more powerful, instinctive, um, while they are being recited. Perhaps, again, I'm not an expert on this topic, but one of these prayers might be the Pater Noster. This is certainly the first line is in a trochaic poetic verse, so it has a stressed syllable followed by an unstressed syllable, then stressed, then unstressed. So this gives a tanta 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 rhythm, quite similar to the rhythm of the Italian language. And certainly no surprise, as the Italian language is descended from and still quite similar to the Latin language in its intonation. Many other medieval Latin poems are also in the same trochaic um, meter, such as Stabat Mater. The first line goes Stabat Mater Lacrimosa. Again, tanta 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 tanta. Dies irae, dies irae, dies illa. This is again tanta 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 tanta. And the typical onomatopoeia or sound effect for human heartbeat is something like ba-bum, 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 ba-bum. The same rhythm, although in English you start with the unstressed one, followed by the stressed one. Of course, when this pattern repeats, it is more or less irrelevant which you begin with, as the alternation of them is the thing that counts. This is actually something that I've been thinking about and might come to in next week's linguistics episode. Because, as an aside, interestingly, classical Roman poetry did not use this trochaic meter, even though it is perfectly suited for the Latin language. Classical Roman poetry used I can't remember the name of it, but they used the Greek poetic meter, which goes tan ta ta tan ta ta tan ta ta tan ta ta, which is better suited for Greek. Of course, usually most languages come up with a poetic meter that matches their own language, because you want your poetry to sound natural. But in the case of the Romans, they were so overpowered by the cultural capital of the Greeks that they ended up taking over many of this kind of cultural touchstones of Greek culture, even if they were not perhaps quite perfectly suited for the Latins. We all know that the Roman and Greek gods are almost synonymous. This was not originally the case. The Roman pantheon was slightly changed to better fit the Greek one, as they were the prestigious civilization of this cultural sphere. But let's get back to that next week. Let's carry on with Sir Brante. You recall the murder of Patriarch Fotis a year ago. It seems more patriarchs share his doctrine now. The news of Junius Diamant joining the new faith is stunning. If an Archnian from a great dynasty has sided with Fotis' doctrine and agreed to see everyone as equals under the twins, the new faith must truly be putting down roots. But suddenly, several figures appear by the podium, figures clad in black with glinting silver on their sides, inquisitors. They push through the crowd and form a circle around Patriarch Luke. One of these priests rises before the crowd. He is clean-shaven, tall, with chiseled features. Everyone falls silent at the sight of him. The Inquisitor speaks with a booming voice that can be heard by all. Ah, Father Ulrich again. I was wondering why he had the exact same image. I am Father Ulrich. In the name of the twins and by my right as an Inquisitor, I order you to turn around and leave. The words you are hearing are full of lies. Patriarch Luke has set out to poison your hearts and minds, and the Inquisition will not allow this heresy to spread. The only true path in life is the will of the twins. Life offers us no other choice. You are hereby ordered to disperse at once. No one expects the Spanish Inquisition. Apparently not. Most people want to leave the square immediately. Few want to get involved with the Inquisition. Some people stay, however, and some even shout angrily. We want to listen to Luke. He is the Patriarch of Archnia, and he has more to say. Get away from our sermon, old believers. We will not listen to you and your hoary old lies about the lots. I see we have gained a bot. One moment, I shall block this individual or program, whichever he is. So, this should be better. Inquisitors, bring those who may yet listen back to their lots, and leave the others to the champions of faith. The black-clad Inquisitors descend from the podium and approach the people who chose to stay. With nothing but their words, they make people stop shouting and start listening. The uproar ceases quite quickly. They have dissected the crowd, split it in smaller groups that surround each Inquisitor. One of these Inquisitors chooses to approach you. He is a humble-looking man of age with a rough haircut. He looks you straight in the eye as his lively, soulful voice forces you to listen to his words, despite yourself. It almost appears as if the priests had a certain magical quality to them. It may well be the case. Bye, new viewer. Goodbye, new bot. Jeremiah Haag is this one. My name is Father Jeremiah. I know your thoughts were stirred by the Patriarch's words. You are not sure whom to trust. But I teach at the seminary. I have been studying the teachings of the twins my entire life. You can trust me. I know... Again, perhaps translation problem. I imagine... I know you can hear what I have to say. I see their light in your eyes. The light of the true faith. Will you listen to my counsel, my son? One moment, I am surprisingly running out of power. I have to find my cable. One moment. Here we are again. Will you listen to my counsel, my son? I imagine we will, and if we become a student of theology, I imagine Father Jeremiah will be one of our teachers. You feel no malice in the words of Inquisitor Jeremiah, only hope. It is his lot to aid you and guide you away from error and sets you on the path of the true faith. He is a priest, so he should know the truth. Or perhaps the Inquisitor himself is in the wrong. We certainly will not resist him. This does not seem like something that young James would do. Listening to his counsel also seems somewhat plain for the young James, who has always asked for the reasons to believe something since small childhood, and his mother teaching him the basics of their faith. We shall debate. You start debating the Inquisitor, mastering all your knowledge and awareness of the new faith. The lots are an error introduced by Isaicius. They are incorrect, obsolete, and contrary to the way of life of the modern empire. Pardon me again, I think my... Yes. The fans on my computer should now be somewhat quieter than they were the previous moment. Please hear me out, my son. In these difficult times, people of your estate are the ones most tormented by doubt. Your lot is suffering, but not all of you are ready to suffer. Some turn to guile and cunning to avoid it, and they end up in eternity's embrace at the foot of the pillar. Please understand, your lot requires humility. Suffering is inevitable, and so is doubt. Yet each of them may temper your soul, yet each of them may also destroy it. But know this, if you have doubts, you are always welcome at the temple. No priest will turn you away in a moment of weakness. This is why we exist, to fortify faith in the hearts of all people, to bring the word of the twins to those who have gone astray. Know this, the Inquisition does not imprison everyone suspect of heresy. We exist to protect souls, to guide and save them. We pursue dangerous doctrines and seek to rescue every soul we meet. You didn't notice the fan. I'm happy. My microphone is on the opposite end of my table from where the fan is, so I can clearly hear it, but I hope you do not. Father Jeremiah seems to be the ideal inquisitor, someone who truly believes in his doctrine and believes that his work is helping and saving people. I have a sneaking suspicion that not all of the inquisitors are quite as well-intentioned and as gentle as he is. Arrest or execution is our last resort, reserved only for sinners beyond redemption. You can see that I am merely speaking to you right now. I have not resorted to force, nor am I giving you any orders. Do not resist this, but rather consider the following. Did the patriarch speak the truth? You answer that Luke's sermon was far more convincing than Father Jeremiah's words. Everyone blindly heeds the writings of Isaicius, who is but one man who decided he had the right to define the lives of generations to come. But people have the right to free will, you say. They have the right to choose their destiny and bear the burden of their choice. Father Jeremiah sighs in response. It saddens me to see that you have been led astray so easily, yet you are young. You should seek to learn the truth on your own. If you truly believe you can interpret the will of the gods, perhaps you should become a priest yourself. This is a good advice. If you come to the divine seminary and prove you deserve the lot of the clergy, you will be accepted. I teach there, and I am always happy to see students of considerable talent. even if they have been led astray. But for now, you should leave this place. You will learn nothing by facing the champions of faith. With this, Father Jeremiah leaves you and proceeds further. You leave the square freely, your dignity preserved. The remaining people in the square continue arguing with the other inquisitors. Armed champions of faith stand nearby, but they do not intervene. Luke and his retinue can no longer be seen. You walk back to the lodging house, mulling over Father Jeremiah's words about the seminary. The family sends you to earn a noble title, but you have an opportunity to become a priest of the old faith or the new. If you see your destiny in service to the gods, no one has the right to stand in your way. Our eloquence has increased. The advance of the new faith. Patriarch Luke's sermons have converted many commoners and nobles of the mantle to the new faith. There are now several temples in Eterna that follow the new canons with Luke's blessing. This has led to no small amount of anger among the followers of the old faith. Two mighty bishops of the church lead the new faith. One of them is Luke, the Patriarch of Archnia himself, spiritual mentor of the capital province. He preaches all around Archnia, his every sermon adding to the new faith's flock. The other leader of the new faith is Patriarch Junius Diamant. Hailing from a great Archnian dynasty, he is the de facto ruler of Astinia province. Adored by his subjects, he has founded the new holy order anew. Junius Diamant rarely preaches, but people believe the Astinian Patriarch attends to the needs of all who convert to the new faith. This schism within the church is growing. The split has furthered the divide between the commoners and the nobles, though thankfully there has been no direct conflict as of yet. But it has become clear that there is no way to stop the steady advance of the new faith. Born from the death of Patriarch Fotis, it grows stronger by the day. The church has weakened, and order has weakened. I have to wonder if this relatively large strengthening of the new faith has something to do with our actions. Perhaps, perhaps not. The city that never sleeps. The next few weeks pass by in hard work and preparation for the coming entrance exam at the Imperial College. You grow more and more exhausted with each passing day, so much so that one night you fall asleep while studying another book. When you finally come to, you decide it is high time to get some recreation outside. The city of Eterna amazes you as you stroll through its splendid streets. It is another night, a different night, yet the city is beautiful still. The shining pillar is a slice of light against the dark night sky. The lamps on the facades of the buildings are lit. Night descends on the capital. You don't feel like going back to your books tonight. Recently you've made the acquaintance of several young men. They are children of nobles of the mantle, just like you, sent to the capital to earn their noble titles at the college. You decide to seek them out. Your new friends are having a late dinner on the next street over, loudly discussing their plans for the night. Some speak eagerly of a dueling club, where you can see the most skilled and ardent duelers of the Empire doing what they do best. You have never seen professional duelers fight. It must be far more exciting than father's fencing lessons, or that fight in the ruins in Anisot. And if luck favors you, perhaps you can even make useful contacts among the noble families in the capital. The others try to convince the rest to take a trip to a certain secret salon. The establishment is expecting a guest tonight, they say. A young lady who will speak about the true state of affairs in the Empire. There are many questions about the nature of the place and the identity of the mysterious speaker, but the young men have only one answer. They are forbidden to speak about this outside the club. However, They can take you there as long as you aren't afraid to learn a dangerous truth. I wonder if the writing in that book is asemic, a substitution cipher, or neography for an invented language. That is a good question. In my experience, most game projects use their imaginary letters just as a simple one-to-one substitution for Latin letters. But this seems like a fairly involved and artful game project. Might even be that they may have invented something more imaginative than simple substitutions. I imagine that this dangerous truth has something to do with the spoiler that we received about our old friend or acquaintance Sophia. There are others still drinking their fill of wine rather than eating. Fencing, they say. Speeches? Nonsense. The place you ought to go tonight, they claim, is the Markian Society, a gathering for those of common estate but uncommon opinions that offers pleasures for everyone. Pleasures of the palate, pleasures of drink, pleasures of the flesh. Is this not heresy and a crime? Perhaps. And yet, some of your newfound friends are eager to go there. In the end, your group splits in three to spend the night as they see fit. What will it be? A contest featuring the best fences in Eterna? An establishment both mysterious and dangerous? Or an encounter with people who defy their lot with audacity? You weigh your options. The brothel seems like the least likely destination for young James. Between the dueling club and the secret salon, well, young James is no stranger to fights. He would certainly be interested, but the dueling club, I imagine, is always there. This mysterious secret salon sounds like something that would interest someone as dedicated to finding out the truth of this world as James. And by coincidence, perhaps our old acquaintance Sophia will be there. But I think I would make this choice even without this extra information. The secret salon is an unremarkable wooden building down an alleyway a few blocks from the great temple of the twins. A couple of tough, taciturn fellows at the door eye you suspiciously. Their faces are obscured by hoods. One of your newfound friends nods to them, and you are allowed inside. The inner rooms are stuffy and overcrowded. All the partitions have been removed to make room for more people. There's a raised platform next to one of the walls, perhaps a stage. There are benches all around. They are occupied by people of the common estate, most of them modestly dressed. They are artisans, thinkers, street vendors, students. Yet you see that some of them are wealthy and impeccably dressed. A mop-headed young man dressed like a low-ranking clerk appears on the stage. He claps to attract the public's attention. When the house goes quiet, he reads a series of pamphlets condemning the supreme authorities of the empire and their obsolete rule. A group of young men appear on the stage next, their faces covered in blue paint. They perform a derisive play entitled A Day in the Life of the Tempests. The performances are many, but their goal always the same. They all claim the empire is stuck in the past and has to change. Then, finally, after another voice of accusation, a young girl appears on the stage, and the crowd immediately grows silent. This is her, the mysterious guest they were talking about. You look at her from the crowd, you see short black hair, a slender figure, and those familiar shining eyes. It is Sophia. Brothers and sisters, you all came to this place because deep in your hearts you know. It's Sophia, the girl who used to live next door. She's grown so much since you've last seen her, But what is she doing here? Before Sophia even manages her first sentence, a short man in a shabby jacket jumps onto the stage. He flashes a badge and screams at the crowd, "Nobody move! You're all under arrest as accomplices to an insurrection against the Empire." Imperial gendarmes barge into the house. Swords and crossbows glint in the dim light. First there's confusion, then panic. Screams of fear and outrage fill the hall. Sophia is already gone. You can barely hear the cries demanding that you stay where you are. People start pushing against the gendarmes, against the doors, against the windows. The din is deafening. Only one thought remains in your mind. You have to run. Run away as fast as you can. You push your way to the furthest window in the hall. A hand grabs you by the sleeve of your jacket. You pry it off without looking and keep pushing forward. The expensive jacket starts to tear at the shoulder. The window frame breaks and falls outside. You drop down after it. Shards of glass bite into your hands, but you barely feel the pain. You will have time to feel it later. Now, you need to run. You run and dodge and weave through the alleyways before finally heading for the lodging house. Your heart is racing. Your hands are shaking. Blood is dripping from the cuts on your arms. You have no idea what happened to the people who were arrested. Finally, you reach the room and collapse onto the bed. You are safe from pursuit, but not from anxiety. What was Sophia going to say? How did she end up here, in the capital, after she escaped? Was she arrested too? There are too many questions, but you have no way to answer them. Eventually, you drift off into restless sleep. Our scheming has slightly increased. We are still inexperienced. Age 17. You are on your way to the largest library in Eterna to study for your entry exams. It is right next to the college. The streets are full of people. Everybody is excited. You hesitate for a few seconds, then let your curiosity get the better of you and head towards the place where you will soon study. Before long, you hear the shouting. The great chancellor is about to give a speech about the future of the empire. You cannot possibly miss this. You mix with the crowd and soon find a convenient place to listen and watch what is about to unfold. On the steps of the college, you see a small tribune guarded by two Archnians armed with swords. This is the first time you've ever seen an Archnian standing guard, let alone two of them. The doors of the college open to reveal a stately Archnian surrounded by an honor guard. It is he, Cornelius Tempest, great chancellor of the empire, younger brother to the emperor himself. He heads for the tribune and casts a look over the square. It is full of people in awe and utter silence. Long ago, humans witnessed the Archnians' arrival. The two nations built the empire side by side. The provinces joined us one by one, and Magra was the final province to attain the absolute might and majesty of the blessed Archnian Empire. A somewhat propagandistic view of the history, I believe. Yet there was another great event long before that. 4 centuries ago, the twins had graced us with their presence. With their arrival, the twins granted us their will. They showed us their love and their law, and they granted us knowledge of what awaits us in the hereafter. They chose the dynasty of Tempest to rule the empire, and from that day forth, our dynasty has ruled this land, ordained by the gods themselves. However, it is our duty to the twins not to seek power for power's sake, but rather to lead the empire to further prosperity. And so the Great Imperial Council is soon to review and adopt a new set of laws called the Creed. Under the Creed, all estates will be granted rights. Under the Creed, there will be one law for all imperial citizens to obey, human or Archnian, from the lowliest commoner to the Emperor himself. Now, this appears to be a constitution for our empire. Creed is a word that is usually used to describe an article of faith. You may have heard of the Nicene Creed, for example. This is the prayer or set of phrases decided upon in the Ecumenical Council in Nicaea in the 300s AD that defines what Christianity is. The word behind this is credo. A creed is also called credo in sometimes in English, often particularly in Italian and other Romance languages. And credo means I believe. And again, I am not an expert on this topic, but I believe that the Nicene Creed begins with credo in unum Deum. I believe in one God. This is not quite as nicely rhythmical as some of the actual prayers. Perhaps because codifying Christianity as an institutional religion was actually quite difficult, because there were a huge amount of different splinters, sects, kinds of Christianity fighting for which should become, which was true and which would in this context become the official religion. The Council of Nicaea or Nicaea is also famous for the fist fight between Saint Valentinus of somewhere in Anatolia and Arius, the founder of Arianism, monophysite kind of Christianity, who believed that Jesus was not in fact God and instead a human. Of course, this is not the kind of Christianity that became a state religion, but it was extremely politically relevant in late antiquity. Many of the post-Roman Visigothic kingdoms in Spain and southern France, for example, were ruled by Arian Christians. But back to the game. The strife among the states will end. A single law will resolve all of our quarrels. Glory to the empire. The great chancellor throws his arms into the air. The crowd murmurs and applauds in approval. Cornelius Tempest casts another look over the crowd and leaves. The crowd disperses. The sounds of agitated discussion are everywhere. Is it true that the emperor's dynasty seeks to grant equal rights to all the states? What will happen to the empire then? Power has increased. This is central power. No. This is popular power. So we are moving towards a revolution. The girl from your past. It is early morning. You have been awake since sunrise, studying. There's a knock at the door. Is it a letter from home or a hotel servant? You open the door and freeze, stunned. Hello, Brante. Before you stand Sophia, the girl who used to live next door. She is all grown up now. She looks so different, but you would always recognize those blue eyes, no matter what. You gesture her to come in. Sophia enters the room, glances around, and sits in an armchair. You eye the girl you used to know as you sit across from her. But the young woman you see now has little in common with the girl you used to know. There's cold steel in the way she looks at things. Her hair is cut short. But what is she doing here? I can explain. I've been living in Eterna for a long time now, ever since I ran from Anisot. I heard the other day that you'd left for the capital to get into the college. So I found you, and here I am. You ask Sophia how Sophia learned about your arrival and where you are studying, and she answers your questions with an enigmatic smile. We'll get to that later. Right now, I want to see how much you've changed since we last saw each other. As for me, I've changed a lot. I'm a whole different person now. You look away as you recall your previous encounter, back when Sophia ran away from her Agnian master. Sophia chuckles as she continues. Would you like to know what happened next? I traveled through the Empire all alone. I had nothing. My journey ended only when I reached this place, the capital, with all its important people and events. This is the heart of the Empire. It's a place where I can make a difference. I've made friends here, found people I can truly call my family. I've even gotten an education of sorts. And I have a purpose now. I fight against injustice. I fight against the lots. I fight those who treat our lives like mud on the pavement. And no, I'm not afraid to tell you that. I came to you for a good reason. I need help. I know you. I have faith in your good heart. And besides, it's also about the Imperial College you want to enroll in. There is a scholar there by the name of Bartholomew Dexter. He teaches natural sciences at the college. Dexter is an old man, but he is quite progressive. He'll stop at nothing to advance science and acquire new knowledge. As you know, only second-generation nobles or above are allowed to teach at the college, but Dexter, he is a commoner. He forged his patent of nobility to get a position at the college. But the secret chancellery recently learned of this. Dexter is about to face true death for this forgery. But how is that justice? A man wants to teach, and for this, they're going to take all his lives. They're going to punish him for the crime of being born in the wrong estate. It's evil and obscene, and I will not stand for it. And Dexter deserves to be rescued. I don't want to put anyone in danger, so I need your help. You're from a rich family, you're almost a noble. If you help me get Dexter out of the city, nobody will suspect anything. No one will know, and the scholar will live on to continue his research elsewhere, far away from the secret chancellery. Will you help me? Nobody will suspect anything is the part that I would not quite trust. You feel perplexed by Sophia's sudden request. She is asking you to break imperial law and undermine the work of the secret chancellery to save this scholar. Rescuing Dexter would be an adventure. It would also be incredibly dangerous. And besides, Dexter is a fake noble. He resorted to lies and deceit to get his current position. How much does this matter to you? Sophia's blue eyes are studying you, waiting for your reply. We cannot assuage our guilt. So this would be in case we had betrayed her, we would help her because of that, but we did not. So we can either refuse or we can help. It appears that there are relatively few possible relationships with Sophia. It's merciless sounds something like the maximum negative relationship. So she just continues elsewhere with a new identity. Partly, I think. I didn't get the impression that she was a rebel back in Anisot. She seemed to be just an abused maid at that point. So perhaps she's we could perhaps more appropriately say that she has grown into her new identity after escaping. Well, James is not suicidal, but he is brave, and he has a history of helping Sophia. So, let's go. You promised to help Sophia. Bartholomew Dexter does not deserve this. He has to leave the capital. She can count on you. I knew I could count on you. And we must act at once. There's no time to waste. Dexter is to be arrested tomorrow. Here's his address. Go there as soon as the sun sets. No one will suspect you. Dexter often tutors young men for the college entrance exams. Tell him the owl sent you. Use the back door to get out. A carriage will drive up to the backyard. The driver will hoot like an owl. He'll take you to the south gate. If the guards stop the carriage, just talk your way out of it. Once you're outside the city, Dexter will ride away in a different carriage. You'll go back the same way you came. I'll meet you in Majesty Square. Let's check our eloquence and our diplomacy are both quite good, but our manipulation and scheming are quite low. Whether we will be able to speak our way out of a confrontation remains to be seen. You nod to her words and your hands start to shake. You are about to go against the secret chancellery. You are going to help someone escape punishment. To defy your own lot like this, it's unthinkable. When the sun sets, you leave the lodging house and walk quickly, glancing over your shoulder repeatedly. Bartholomew Dexter's house must be somewhere around here. You find the place. A genteel old man opens the door. His face is covered in wrinkles, his shoulders are stooped, and yet his eyes are sharp and lively. Bartholomew Dexter looks at you for a moment, then asks why you have paid him a visit. You tell him you want to enroll in the college and are looking for a tutor. Dexter nods and invites you inside. Once you make sure nobody else can see or hear you, you whisper to the scholar about the real reason for your visit. The secret chancellery will be looking for him tomorrow, and he has to leave now to escape true death. Dexter freezes, then turns to you. How do you know about him and the secret chancellery? You tell him that the owl sent you and has provided for his escape. As for the secret chancellery, they want him for forging a patent of nobility. The moment you utter Sophia's name, the lecturer calms down and starts packing for the journey. You watch him distractedly and notice that he leaves in a rather austere fashion. It does not let it take him long to pack. Perhaps he has seen this coming for a while. You hear the quiet clacking of hooves in the yard. Carefully, you and Dexter proceed to the backyard of the building. You see a carriage there. The driver hoots quietly. You get in. The carriage rolls down the road. There is tense silence in the closed-off space inside the carriage. The scholar wrings his hands anxiously. Through the carriage windows, you see the massive city gate passing by. You are almost outside the city, but then a loud voice reaches you. Halt! The driver obediently halts the carriage. 2 city gendarmes approach you. In case gendarme is not a familiar word to some in the audience, perhaps I should have gone into this during the raid, but it was quite an exciting episode. A gendarme is something between a policeman and a soldier. A gendarme means man at arms, but this is an agent of the law, not someone who fights in a war, but is still heavily armed and likely to commit violence. Many of the Latin countries in Europe have gendarmes. In France, they are called gendarmes. The Italian ones are carabinieri. I imagine Spain and Portugal also have theirs, but I can't remember what they are called. These are the kind of people who have blue or other flat color uniforms, so they are clearly not soldiers, even though in both countries named you can see soldiers patrolling cities, or guarding cities at least. But they will be armed with either submachine guns or assault rifles, so not really people to mess with. You leave the carriage to face the gendarmes before they can get a peek inside the carriage. And they look you over and ask you where you are going so late at night. You tell them you are the son of a judge in Magra, here to enroll in the college. And right now you wish to visit the estate of a newfound friend. To convince them further, you mention the name of a noble son you have become friendly with. The gendarmes release the carriage and wish you a pleasant trip. You drive along the high road until you encounter a peasant wagon. Dextra will take it to seek refuge far away from the capital. Before the two of you part ways, he pats you on the shoulder and tells you that you have done a truly brave deed. You return to the city without incident. You found Sophia in Majesty Square as agreed, sitting on a bench by a streetlight, reading a book of some sort. She closes the book when she sees you and offers you her hand. So, did everything go according to plan? You nod. Then we've earned ourselves a bit of free time. Let's go. I have to say I am surprised how well this episode went. I expected more trouble. Or at least that we would have to use some of our abilities to escape scrutiny. You set off on a walk through the maze of narrow backstreets. Finally you have some time for questions. What happened to Sophia over the last 2 years? She was just a girl before, a servant. How is she now a revolutionary? Sophia just smiles sadly. You've seen what I can do. I am not just a girl. The Inquisition caught up with me when I ran away from Anisot. I ended up in the House of Humility, a dreadful place. I got collared. Do you know how it feels to lose your free will, losing everything that makes you you? Now, this is certainly ominous. It seems that just helping her escape did not save her from a horrible fate. Just instead of a horrible fate at the hands of an abusive master, she ended up in a political prison. A magical one at that. She unclasps the tall shirt collar that had been hiding her neck all this time, and you see the round mark from the anti-magic collar. They say a scar like this will remain even after a lesser death, but I got lucky. Patriarch Junius Diamant saved me. Patriarch Junius seems to be quite a good person. Diamant took me and the other mages from the House of Humility and removed our collars. He made me one of his attendants. He taught me that there are no lots. He taught me that I'm like this not because I'm a freak, but because it's my nature. He told me I can find a path that wins like anyone else in this world. And then I was taken. I got out on my own. I found my own lot, to protect the common people from the noble yoke, to help others who are as unlucky as I am, to fight for a different world, a world where everybody has equal rights, a world where mages don't get robbed of their will just because of one aspect of their birth, a world where the nobles no longer tread upon the commoners. Yes, this is our dream, but we are still so far away from it. I will keep moving towards it, and I'll stop at nothing. It appears that the religious and political reform movements are, in fact, quite intimately intermingled in this world. This should come as no surprise. After all, the Protestant Reformation of our own world was, if not started by nobles, it was certainly furthered along massively by individuals and institutions in power who stood to benefit from it or to whose ideals it appealed. A strange, distorted expression appears on Sophia's face, but she quickly returns to normal. You keep walking until you are at your lodging house again. For a moment, you just stand there looking at each other. Then, suddenly, Sophia embraces you. For a moment, she remains still in your arms and whispers, "You should join my cause. If we work together, one day we'll become a force to be reckoned with. I know you came here to find your way, but I'll never believe you really want to bind yourself to other people's laws and desires for the rest of your life. The path I walk is dangerous, it's almost hopeless, but it's worth living for. Think about it. Bye." So, it appears that our young Sir James Brante has had his first hug with Sophia, and our relationship with her has increased. Then she withdraws just as quickly and disappears in the dark streets of Eterna. You make your way back to your room, exhausted by the events of the day. Was this really just a single day in your life? Our scheming and valor have increased. Neither is particularly high.
I will never forget that day. For it was then that I chose the path I would walk for the rest of my life.
The three lots. Oh, the sword also has this cross and circle symbol in its guard. The geometry. Ah, yes. Now I understood the geometry of this sword. So the blade is aligned along the long arm of the cross, and this, what appears to make it somewhat rectangular, is actually the fuller. So we have a curving span like this, with a countersunk area in the middle. There are only a few days, three lots. There are only a few days left until the Imperial College entrance exam. History, law, theology. You spend all day reading and rereading the books you brought with you, staying at the Library of Eterna for hours, sometimes until it closes. As the day of the exam approaches, your hands start shaking more and more, and, finally, the day comes. A clear sky hangs over Eterna today. The breeze is warm. You dress in your best outfit, a grey jacket and velvet culotte trousers. You comb your hair carefully and polish your boots until they shine. You leave the lodging house and head for the Imperial College. I think that culottes are the sort of trousers that end at below the knee, so you would have tight socks for your shins. I'm not an expert, again, on the topic of early modern fashion. I can remember that the rebels in the French Revolution were called the sans-culottes, so without culottes, and they certainly wore trousers like we would understand them. And through negation of this, I think that the culottes are the early modern, let's say late medieval to early modern noble trousers. Your legs grow heavier with each step. Your anxiety at the fact your fate will be decided today is virtually tearing you apart. It's actually something that I cannot... I don't have my own experience with. I have never actually attended a university entrance examination. I was accepted on the basis of my notes at the previous level of study. The college is a majestic building that looks not unlike a castle. In the square in front of it, you can already see several dozen people. Young men, sons of nobles of the mantle like you, waiting for the college's doors to open. Time slows to a crawl. At last the doors open. A stately man dressed in a professor's mantle appears at the entrance. He is the dean of the college. The students-to-be fall silent as the dean gets ready to deliver his welcoming speech. But the silence is interrupted by heavy footsteps and clanking armor. A squadron of warriors emerge near the college, led by Agnian officers. Their banners bear an image of golden grains. The noble militia of Monia province. What are they doing here? The nobles of Monia form a circle around the college, each warrior moving quietly and precisely until a chain is formed. One of the Archnians is clad in an old-fashioned suit of armor. He is the leader of the militia. He locks the bar on the massive doors of the college into place, then proceeds to the stairs to address the crowd loudly. What a horrifying name. I have to decide according to which language to pronounce this. Now let's call him Egerius. Egerius Monroe. Commoners, before you stands Egerius of the Monroe dynasty, Archduke of Monia. By my will, the college is hereby closed, and today's entrance exam is cancelled. Your lowly origins make you unfit for the great honor of rendering service to the Empire, a right that ought to be available only to the hereditary nobles of the sword. The college's reputation has been tarnished. It parades mock nobles who bear not a trace of noble blood. You belong in the lowly estate, but have forgotten your place. Cornelius Tempest and other traitors of the Empire are indulging you and defacing the institution of the nobility for their lowly interests. A noble lot for those of lowly birth? How can this be? I will not stand for this disintegration of the Imperial Order. Now turn away from the college this instant and return to the humble trades of your ancestors. Plow your fields, mend your boots, and work and suffer by your lot. If any of you dares to set foot upon these stairs, you will be killed at once. The students-to-be meet this speech with a stunned silence. The crowd in the square is growing, however. The news of the Monia noble militia and the college's closing spreads through the streets like wildfire. More humans join the crowd. College students, commoners, officials who worked hard to be ennobled. Unrest grows around you. You hear people calling to rush Archduke Monroe's forces to take control of the college and defend your right to become noble. The Emperor himself gave us this right. We have to fight for it. This is a decisive moment for all of you. The old gentry has challenged you. Will you accept this challenge? In the face of this shameful, illegal act by the Archduke's forces, you may prove that all of you deserve the noble lot. You will need to break through the cordon, get inside the college and take control of it. The nobles will never dare hurt you if your presence is strong enough. If you are ready to risk it all and fight for your right to the nobility, you will have to lead the charge. People keep coming to the square in the meantime, including students and teachers from the Divine Seminary. The lot of the clergy is to guide others to the right path. When the estates clash, the priests are bound to intervene. The seminary teachers instruct their students to form a line between the noble militia and the outraged crowd. The priests begin telling the warrior nobles and the riotous commoners to return to the preordained divine order, lest they provoke the wrath of the gods. The wrath of the gods. As the priests utter these words, the ground around you disappears. A vision appears before your eyes. The Empire is ablaze. You see burning lands deep with pain and despair everywhere you look, rivers overflowing to extinguish the burning world. You can tell that soil scorched by such fire will never bear fruit again. The God's given vision demands to be heard, demands to be prophesied to the world. Only a priest may speak to the twins and for the twins. Will you keep it inside, or will you step onto the path the twins have revealed to you? Somebody shoves you in the back, and you snap out of the vision. You turn around to see a small but decisive troop of commoners moving quickly through the crowd. They are led by Sophia. As soon as she sees you, she signals to them to stop. So you're here too? Going to rush the college, are you? Can't you see it already? The laws can't be trusted. They gave you the right to study here just to throw you a bone. When the going gets tough, your masters will take it all away. It is time for you to decide. We are the lotless, and we are not putting up with this system any longer. We will fight for a new world. Are you coming with us, or are you going to submit to them? There are students and professors locked inside the college. Who knows how long Monroe will maintain this siege? And what if they start slaughtering people? Neither group of nobles will care what happens to them. We are going to go inside and pull them out. Come with us if you are ready to take control of your own destiny. The tension in the square is palpable, and the situation is about to implode. Students, commoners, nobles of the mantle, followers of the new faith, all of them are gathering their forces to move on the wall of soldiers. They expect the nobles to let them through en masse. Surely they won't start a massacre. The Lotless, led by Sophia, prepare to break through the siege to rescue the people in the college. And all the while the priests preach peace to both sides of the conflict. The college is your only way into the nobility. Only you can fight for your new lot and fulfill your duty to your family. You could organize an offensive strong enough to get into the college, and thus seize your lawful right like a true nobleman. Yet the revelation about the wrath of the gods still pulses in your mind. Once revealed, this vision will take you on a different path, standing with the priests and preaching what you have just seen, warning all of the dire danger on the path of warring estates. Bringing that wind's word to the people and guiding them to salvation. Would this be your new lot? Sophia and the Lotless, they expect you to join their struggle. They are waiting for you to cast off the old ways and the eternal yoke of subservience. If you choose this path, you will not change your lot, and your suffering will continue. Your suffering might just change this world. This is the moment. Your future life will be decided here and now. We could charge, as our diplomacy is high enough, our valor is not, but we only need one. We can preach our revelation, as both our theology and eloquence are high enough. But, again, we would only need one. Or, we could join Sophia. I think there's no question about it. Young Sir James has been on the road to a man of God for a long while now. He will preach his revelation. The will that guides you now is beyond your own. There is no point in resisting it. The twins speak through you now. You must follow the will of the twins. You must tell everyone how close they have brought themselves to the point of no return. You walk up the stone stairs, raise your hands, and start speaking loudly. Through the din of the mob, the clanging of steel, and the preaching of priests, your words still reach the ears of the people. There will be a dreadful fire in the city of the Silver Tree. In its flames the ancient order will be lost forever. The gods' wrath will be upon the empire, and the land shall be soaked with blood. The judgment will come, followed by the death of all that lives. The last thing the world shall see will be the twins' faces, shedding bloody tears for their beloved creations that have gone astray. Such is the world's fate, yet it's not too late to change it. As you utter the last words of the revelation, you grow numb and rigid as the vision leaves you. There is a crowd around you now. They heard your every word. They heard the twins speaking through you. A hooded man dressed in a black cassock appears before you. He bears the silver seal of the Inquisition. He is accompanied by two warriors wearing heavy armor, covered in sacred symbols. Seize this pretender. He dares to preach in defiance of his lot. They grab you by the wrists, gag you, and throw you into a dark carriage. Takes you to the Inquisition ward by the great Temple of the Twins. A week of silence. This is the Inquisition's punishment for laying claim to the lot of the clergy. You are locked in a tiny cell, a small room normally fit for prayers. The inhuman strength you just felt is gone. You are utterly exhausted. Your next week is a blur. You lose track of day and night, of dream and vision and reality, and in those visions and with your eyes you see the silver tree growing through the walls and floor and ceiling of your tiny prayer cell. Then, finally, the door opens. They take you outside. You face a thin priest with a shaved head and a piercing gaze. You recall his face. He was the man who stopped Patriarch Luke's sermon. Father Ulrich. Good day to you, Brante. My name is Father Ulrich. Your penance is over, and it is a joy to see how you accepted it. Please understand that penance was for you as a commoner, for such prophecies of warning are the lot of the clergy. But I heard your words there in the square. The twins spoke to their servants through you. You came to the college seeking education and noble title, yes? Its doors will open soon, in no small part due to the efforts of Cornelius Tempest. But that is not your path. What you saw, young Brante, was a revelation. I can see why you had to preach, even in defiance of your lot. But truly understanding the will of the gods is no simple task. It is something that you must be taught to do. Your future is at the seminary. I can see you are ready to become a priest. The gods themselves have chosen this path for you. I will keep a close eye on your progress, James Brante. You walk out of the Inquisition ward, released. The great bell of the great temple rings, echoing over the capital, and you feel a great union with this sound. It resounds within you, it courses through you, it brings clarity of purpose. Before your mind reacts, your lips are already whispering a prayer. This is it, this is your path. The Divine Seminary is right by the great temple, its doors always open, and you enter those doors. The teachers will test you in several days. Before that day comes, you must live in a prayer cell at the seminary. When the day comes, they put you to the test. The priest examines you on your knowledge of the prayers, the works of Prophet Isaiah, and the signs of the Great Descent. In your responses, you mention the silver tree in your hometown. You mention being at its very roots. The final question comes, what brings you here? The wish to see and understand the will and love and law of the twins, you reply. The priest nods at your words, satisfied. You are now a student of the Divine Seminary. This is now your new home and the place where you will prepare to receive your new lot. You will become a priest. By the law of the Empire, you cannot inherit family property or titles. You are to carry the word of the twins into the world, from this moment forth, and until true death takes you to the hereafter. An event has happened, the path of the priest. Bonds of friendship. You return to the lodging house, one last time to gather your belongings for the move to your new home. A young man dressed in the uniform of the military academy greets you at the door. It takes you a moment to recognize Thomas. Your friend locks you in an embrace. This plate that Thomas is wearing is gold gorget. If you are interested in medieval history or perhaps play a lot of medieval fantasy role-playing games, you might recognize this word as the part of plate armor that covers the neck. And this is in fact what this item is evolved from. After they stopped being a practical item to prevent you from being decapitated in battle, they continued in use as a sign of rank, and eventually they became smaller and smaller until this banana-shaped plate is all that remains. You can see some photos from the Second World War featuring this kind of gorgets. I am not Again, not an expert on this topic, so I cannot tell you which individuals would have worn them at that time, or if some armies perhaps still use them, possibly for some parade or other special occasions. It appears that Thomas is wearing one with two symbols on it. We'll get back to the question of what this text might mean, if anything. There's certainly two complicated symbols leads me to think that this might be an ideogram. Perhaps we will learn it at some point, perhaps not. Brante, hey, how are you? I heard about the nasty stuff that went down in the college square. Those damn gentry would do anything to keep low-born folks under their thumb. I'm glad the situation resolved itself. As for me, I'm an academic cadet now. He's beaming with pride. We invite him and chat while you pack. Thomas continues to relay the news as he walked up the stairs. I made it onto the top 10, can you imagine? I did pretty well in sparring and the sciences. It was all thanks to the help you gave me back in the school in Anisot. I'll be studying the art of war now, and then it'll be a quick march to a noble title. How about you? Well, it seems that our relationship with Thomas has been mutually beneficial. Certainly hanging out with a rough and tumble individual like himself gained us the power to resist physically at some points in our life. You tell Thomas about what happened over the past few days and the path you have chosen. He remains quiet as you speak. Both of you realize you may never see each other again. You know, Brante, here's what I think. You may have your own path in life, but you're my friend. We gotta make sure our friendship lasts forever, no matter what happens to us. Here, I brought 2 brass rings. If the old tradition is to be believed, both the rings and their wearers will always remain close to each other, no matter where fate takes them. What do you say? What a good companion. Exactly. I have to agree 100%. Thomas, the audacious, hot-blooded, sharp-tongued boy who used to live next door, certainly turned out to be an excellent friend. And I am happy he did. Unfortunately, as I told last time, I also had a childhood friend that I made after a fight. But unfortunately, he was not quite as good a person as Thomas. You can't imagine your childhood without him. But would it be right to promise him that your friendship will last forever, no matter what happens? 2 rings made of brass lie in his open palm. If you wear these rings, you will be bound by ties of friendship for the rest of your life. We cannot swear an oath, as we are not a noble. We can take the ring if we are close enough with Thomas. So these are 2 different ways to go onto this path. Either be a noble or close friends with Thomas. We could keep things like they are or end the friendship. I don't see any reason not to take the ring. You take one of the rings from his outstretched palm. The two of you have walked side by side ever since you were children. Even though your paths in life may diverge, nothing will ever tarnish your bond. You are ready to preserve your friendship in brass forever. You put the brass ring on your pinky, a perfect fit. Thomas does the same. He starts beaming again. Now we are friends forever, for all eternity. We gotta celebrate this. Come. I know a place, I gotta show you. Tastiest meat I've ever tried, Brante. My treat. The 2 of you go to a noble salon by the square of Emperor Severin. Surrounded by tobacco smoke and meat bottles, you wag your tongues, recall the days of your adolescence, and make plans for the future. Nobody knows what could be waiting for you, and you promise you will never lose sight of each other. We are now bound by friendship. This is a special attribute in addition to our actual relationship with him. A special event bond of friendship. A letter from home. After deciding to enroll in the Divine Seminary, you write back home. It isn't an easy letter to write. Father sent you to the capital to enroll in the college. But who could have predicted Archduke Monroe's assault on the college, or the revelation that found you here? Your family replies quickly. You receive their letter in just a week. Father is not happy with your choice, just as you expected. My son, I realize that these are the difficult times in the capital. Nobody expected an attack on the college. Had you been more firm, you could have upheld your right to study there. Cornelius Tempest will ensure that the college opens again. Yet you have already rejected the nobleman's lot. It seems your grandfather was right. But your choice is made, so follow it, and study to become a priest. I did not send you to the capital for this, but I accept your choice. Mother, on the other hand, supports you eagerly. It's no surprise to us. My dearest son, I am so proud that you have chosen to follow your destiny, even if it means going against your father's expectations. I always knew you were born to carry the twins' word in the world, and this is as it should be. Nathan echoes mother's sentiments. The path of the faith may be even more noble than the path of the noble. I am going to the seminary in Anisot, like you. We are going to live the same lot, you and I. You always show me the way. So our young brother, who had his own crisis of faith, has also become strong in his faith. You are not surprised to learn that Stephen and Gloria are disappointed in you, each for their own reasons. How could you defy father's will? It cost him so much time and money to send you to the capital. But alas, what can we do? If the lot of the clergy is your destiny, then so be it. We of the noble lot will attend to our family's future from now on. I wanted you to find your own way, you know, and you defied father's will, all to bend to the will of the church. I hope this new lot finds you well. Our relationship with our mother would have increased or strengthened were this possible. We now have a perfect relationship with our younger brother, and our relationship with our father has slightly soured. But we still have a positive relationship with him. Searching for the truth. Lessons at the seminary start early in the morning. Before the lessons come 2 prayers, one privately in your room, and then a communal prayer in the refectory. I am not familiar with the word refectory. This may again be a misspelling, or it might just be something that I am not familiar with. Again, this is a Russian game, so it might be that the refectory might be some sort of part of a church or monastery within the orthodox Christian tradition. I just don't know. If you are interested, Google it. The morning bell eases you from sleep in the morning. You adjust to the new routine more easily than you would have expected. The seminary students are quite numerous. You have counted more than 30 young adults studying with you. They are both boys and girls, but the girls already cover their hair and keep everyone at a distance. Most of the time the boys and girls study separately, unless a lesson is of particular importance. The classroom is vast, and the boys and the girls sit separately, watching the aged, unassuming teacher with rapt attention. His name is Father Jeremiah Haag. He writes a word in large letters on the blackboard. Isaicius. It is a name you know well. Isaicius was the disciple of the twins, the elder's favorite. He wrote the 2 books that lay down the teachings of the twins. The first book tells of how the twins are will and law and love. The second book tells of the lots and how each of the 3 estates is granted its own lot. For the entire first semester you will study only these two books, for they are the foundations of the faith. The refectory, a room used for communal meals in an educational or religious institution. Thank you. Father Jeremiah gives a passionate lecture about Isaiah and describes his life. His words are filled with reverence. After all, Isaiah was second to none when it comes to understanding their divine providence. After a dozen days in the seminary as a student, you hear a rumor. Luke, the patriarch of Agnia, is about to come here, and the teachers are preparing themselves. Father Jeremiah informs you of the patriarch's arrival a few days later. It is a tradition that every year the patriarch of the capital province personally teaches a class for the first-year students of the seminary in Eterna. The lesson in question will be held in 3 days. We teachers are aware that many students are too preoccupied with their current studies to attend this lecture. But I assure you, should you not attend this lesson, it will not affect you in any way. The students exchange wary glances. Skipping class is normally grounds for harsh punishment. This uncharacteristic mercy is only a few words away from saying you ought to skip the lecture. Your curiosity is piqued. What is making the seminary teachers treat the patriarch's lesson like this? Perhaps you should hear what he has to say and see for yourselves. You decide to attend the lecture. The day comes, the lecture hall is half empty. There are several teachers in the hall as well, keenly eyeing every student who has chosen to attend this class. A few minutes behind schedule, Patriarch Luke arrives. You recognize his broad shoulders and thick brown beard right away. His eyebrows are thick too, and brown, half-squinting eyes gaze out from under them. He greets the students with a smile and begins. The air in the seminary is so inspiring. There was a time when I too studied the teachings of the twins within these walls. My mind was overflowing with questions, but I found answers to only a few of them. I believe that many among you will find little satisfaction in the answers that have come down to us from the faraway past. And I believe that you will yet find the answers that eluded me. More than 1,000 years ago, the twins came to our world. They brought us knowledge. After true death, each of us shall face divine judgment and retribution. And the faith of each of us is in the hereafter depends on the righteousness of our worldly lives. You are students of the seminary. You are now studying the teachings of Isaiah, the foundations of our faith. This student of the elder twin lovingly assembled all their words, all their guidance, and brought it to us who live in the present. But how true is it that the lots, the bonds that hold our present society together, were indeed established by the gods? There are whispers from the teachers' seats. They are not happy with these words, but none of them sees fit to interrupt the patriarch. Apart from the written works of Isaiah, there is no other proof that the twins established the lots and told all people to follow them. While they were present in this world, neither the elder nor the younger ever mentioned separating people into 3 estates. The twins only told us the judgment we shall face in the hereafter, and not of the laws by which they will judge us. That being said, I will ask you a question. The very questions my brethren fear so much. Is there not a chance Isaiah was in error? For no mortal man is free of error. And is there not a chance that we are all in error by repeating his words? Instead, would it not be more sensible for everyone to interpret the teachings of the twins individually? Perhaps the solutions in the teachings of Isaiah was right for Isaiah himself, and not for all of us. The teacher's displeasure grows louder and louder with Luke's every word. Finally, Father Jeremiah grows indignant enough to interrupt the lecture. This profane speech must end. How can a man of your rank be so imprudent and irresponsible as to confuse young people with such ungodly heresy? You will find that no soul in this very hall will ever doubt the truth as it is written in the sacred books. To this, Patriarch Luke smiles again. I am a mortal man, like Saint Isaicius, so I may be in error as well. If this is indeed so, and no student of the seminary shares my concern enough to dedicate a paper to the questions I have asked, then I will curtail my dangerous speech, so as not to confuse these bright young souls. But if perchance you are the ones in error, if one of these bright young souls does in fact share my concerns, then my lectures on my outlook on Isaicius and his teachings will continue. The Patriarch leaves. For a time the teachers converse in low voices. Then Father Jeremiah casts a watchful eye over the students and rises. It is natural for young people such as you to face the eternal truths with doubt, and the words you have heard may have sown themselves among those youthful doubts. But listen to what I am about to say. There is no place for such impiety in the life of a true priest. Heed my words, all of you, and consider the danger well before you allow such dangerous thoughts into the temple of your mind. And there can be no doubt that the Patriarch of Agnia would ever call the true faith into question. However, youths such as you, who are only beginning their service to the twins, may easily be led astray by such ideas. So be mindful of your thoughts and doubts, and weed out any impiety, for the path of heresy can lead only to the eternal suffering. You return to the monastic cell in which you live. The books of Isaicius are right there on the shelf. You open the second book and run over the words about the lots. These words are the truth of truths. You learned them by heart when you were very young. How could anyone ever doubt them? Yet you cannot deny that there is at least one truth in Patriarch Luke's words, and this truth is knowing at your mind. Isaicius was indeed a mortal man. And, as a mortal, he could have been in error. He could have gotten it all wrong. These thoughts fill you with doubt. We cannot support Patriarch Luke because of our low willpower. We could reject the doubt and strengthen our belief. I don't think this is what we would do. So we will have to seek comfort in prayer. Speaking of willpower, it has been quite a while since we gained any. The feud between Patriarch Luke and the seminary teachers makes you think, why do these old men have to argue over the interpretation of words written by a mortal man for mortal men? The most important thing here is the will of the gods. It is being obscured behind a battle over dogma. Once your lessons are done for the day, you head for the temple. Inside you raise your head to look at the statues of the twins, the elder with the lash, the younger with the sword. They look at you, almost as if they are curious to see what you will do. You clasp your hands and whisper a prayer. It is part prayer, part question. What is their will? What did the twins truly intend to tell the people? How are we supposed to live? Your whispered words scatter among the tall pillars and stretch across the temple like a web waiting to catch an answer. Even the flicking candlelight seems to dance to the rhythm of your prayer. And then you sense an unfamiliar feeling of comforting warmth. It is pulsing on your chest from the place where the priest's encircled cross would be. You do not notice when your question changes. It is no longer a question. It is now an expression of joy, a hint to the twins, to their will and love and love, and to the lots and the wisdom they have brought into this world. The prayer ends, but the warmth in your chest remains. With that warmth comes understanding. Everything you are doing here is for a reason, and it is right. The twins are within you, they are guiding you. And when you speak in a temple one day, you will speak the will of the twins, and you will bring forth their gift to all existence. Doubt plagues you no longer. We have gained willpower. Age 18. It seems that young James Brante's years at the university are more eventful than his childhood years. Last time we took 5 hours to go through 16 years, now we have taken 2 hours to go through 2 years. I imagine that completing young James's university years will be a good chapter for today. The trial of the 50. You have lived another year in the capital. Eterna has been shaken by what is now known as the trial of the 50. 50 people stand trial at once, all prominent members of several political circles. They are accused of treason and conspiracy against the crown. The accused spoke in favor of reducing the power of the nobles and granting more rights to the common estate. There was no mention of rebellion, yet those words alone were enough to indict them. This is somewhat bizarre, as I believe the Chancellor himself held a speech to similar goals. Every session of the trial is open to the public. It is a show of power made to discourage people from forming such circles ever again. You attend one of these sessions. The 50 face their verdict: forced labor in the mines of Magra and Illyria for regular members, and true death for their leaders, 6 men and 1 woman. Their public execution takes place in the central square of Eterna. You remember the woman. Her name was Annie Siren. She made a speech before her execution. A young woman, not too tall, her face almost plain, with long bangs over her eyes. She looks calm, even at this moment. You cannot believe she is about to leave this world forever. Annie Siren takes a look around before she speaks. Her voice is quiet. You are close enough to hear every single word. She says she is happy to give her lives fighting for the rights of the people. Her cause will never die, Annie claims. Others like her will continue their work in hiding, for their cause is right and just. She is dragged away to the others. They put a sack over her head and tighten a noose around her neck. Her hand yanks on the lever, and the 7 dangle in the air. Their feet tremble at first, then grow still. There are gasps and cries of discontent in the crowd. Public order has been strengthened, and the power of the old order has grown stronger. The Black Book. Your studies at the seminary continue. You assist with the preparations for church holidays. Study the accounts of the twins' lives and sacred scriptures. The seminary sends some of its students on a pilgrimage to the holy sites of the empire to follow in the footsteps of one of the twins. A large group of these pilgrims returns to the seminary several weeks after your studies begin. Among the students in this group is a young woman who looks familiar. She holds her head high as her brown eyes, filled with wisdom and strength, study you attentively. She approaches you first. It is Jeanne. You met in the past by the silver tree in Anisot. Jeanne was but an acolyte at the temple by the tree at that time. Now she is in Eterna like you, almost ready to complete her studies. I remember you. I'm glad you're here. So you found your way to the priestly lot after all. It's nice to see a familiar face from your former life. You start spending more time with Jeanne, praying and reading the sacred scriptures together. Most of the time you discuss theology, but the more you learn about each other, the more you start discussing your lives before the seminary. You tell her how mother prepared you to serve the twins ever since you were a child, from daily prayers to following your lot in everything. As for me, I don't know who my parents are. I grew up in the orphanage in the temple by the temple. Studying at the seminary has been my goal since as long as I remember. The priests were kind to me, and now it is my sacred duty to serve the twins. With the first term exams now behind you, you are allowed to visit the antiquarium, a special storage chamber for sacred relics and artifacts that harken back to the history of the faith. You invite Jean to go there with you. The inside of the antiquarium is quiet. The items you see beyond the glass panes and on the shelves are nothing short of amazing. This is a museum date. One thick, ragged tome is an original work inked by Isaicius. You see old images of the twins' likenesses faded with time. You behold the lash you used in the very first sacraments for the lowborn lot. The relics made of silver, the twins' blessed metal, are kept in a separate chamber. You take some time poring over these handcrafted sacred symbols. The shelves on the opposite wall are covered with silver colors large and small. They are so elegant. The things we make are much simpler these days, always cast from silver, not forged by hand. Look, those old colors even had names stamped into the silver. Another wall is covered with thin silver slabs, prayers of the twins etched into the metal. After taking the priest's sacrament, any priest may use such a silver slab to call God's power down upon their foes and work wonders, even outside the temple grounds. Do you think these might be copies? Silver slabs disappear when they're used, don't they? Just imagine the temptation, working wonders anywhere, just like that. There's one more chamber in the furthest end of the antiquarium, with only one relic within. The only room here that is guarded. Your voices trail off when Jean and you feel the eyes of the chamber guard upon you. He bears a scroll with a silver seal on his cassock. An inquisitor. What the inquisitor is guarding is a black book, its pages blackened seemingly by fire. The book lies inside a spacious cage forged of time-faded silver. You are not allowed to approach it, the inquisitor says. What is it? You ask. The inquisitor sighs and glances at the silver cage with worry and scorn. This is the most dangerous and vile of all the relics in the land, he says. It is a monument to the Dark Ages, when Archnians used to fight one another for power. The time when one of the great Archnian dynasties defied the twins' chosen tempests. The Archnian who owned this book was Shara Milanidas, the wizard. Driven by helpless rage, he scorched the land of Magra and ravaged the imperial army with a terrible curse. But the twins' power stripped him of his dark sorcery, and the Holy Order brought him down. The book within this cage contains his sinister spells. What the Inquisitor says seems unbelievable. The books you have read say all of Milanidas' relics were destroyed. He explains, however. Apparently the book was utterly impossible to immolate. Even with the God's divine aid, the countless raging pyres it was subjected to would only blacken the pages with ash, but not destroy them. The dark magic remains within the book, preserving its blasphemous sorcery. But the book alone is not enough. The rebellious duke turned his very land into a weapon by destroying it. The Holy Order, the Sword of the Twins, surrounded Milanidas' forces along with the imperial army. Their victories were numerous, for true faith guided them towards the city of Anisot. With no other way to prolong the war and nourish his magical powers, the rebellious duke squeezed all life from the land of Magra and transformed it into dark sorcery. And so the province of Magra, ruled by Shah Milanidas, became an infertile desert during that war. The people of Milanidas began dying from sickness and famine, and many fled to the neighboring lands. Yet this evil act did little to stop the twins' true believers. By the prayer of the priests, the gods took away the dark magic of Shah Milanidas and dispelled the accursed sorcery he had wrought. The Holy Order dealt swiftly with the remnants of Milanidas' army, while the Inquisition captured all the mages and witches hiding in Anisot. Shah Milanidas himself was executed as an oathbreaker, possessed by heresy, who had destroyed the fertile lands of Magra and starved thousands of his subjects to death. Be wary of magic, for magic is an ungodly power that distorts and plagues all it touches, and so must be eradicated, the Inquisitor concludes. These words seem to affect Jeanne deeply. She turns pale and walks out of the room containing the encaged book. You thank the priest for his story and follow her. You find the poor girl sitting on a bench in the park by the temple, her face hidden in her arms. You lightly tap her on the shoulder and ask what is troubling her. When I came to Eterna, I wasn't alone. I had a friend, almost a sister. Her name was Alice. I had one goal here, to serve the twins, but she wanted to be an actress. I argued against it, told her that acting was in defiance of her lot, but Alice wouldn't listen. She's performing in taverns now, and in markets on holidays. I went to one of her performances once, just the other day in fact. And I saw her eyes glowing yellow. Every time her eyes flashed, the people would applaud her. She's not just defying her lot, she's using magic. Alice is practicing the dark arts, confounding people's minds with sorcery. I was far enough away, her spell didn't reach me. I can't tell the Inquisition about her. Alice is my only real friend in this world, and she's a witch. I don't know what to do. Jeanne's shoulders tremble with anxiety. Her brown eyes are red with tears as she looks at you, hoping for guidance that will save her from error. What will you tell Jeanne? We cannot guide her to the right path as we are not actually friends with her. We can inform the Inquisition. Seems like a bad idea. And we can keep silent. I'm going with keeping silent. You look away from Jeanne and ask her a question. Does she feel any evil in Alice's heart? Would she ever use that power to harm others? Jeanne shakes her head. No, Alice would never do that. But what will she face in the hereafter? How will she be judged? If this is true, you say, then there is no need for the Inquisition. Why do you say that? Because your friend is no Shah Milanidas, you say. She is not killing the land. She is not defying God's chosen order. She is not starving thousands. And she will never harm others. If Alice remains free, she will have a choice. A choice to willingly reject her accursed power and accept the lot she was dealt. But if the Inquisition finds her, she will be stripped of her lot and turned into a limp mockery of a human bound in a silver collar. She will never find her way to the twins in the house of humility. How dare you say such a thing? This is heresy. The twins abhor all magic. The twins gave people the lots, you say, and they gave them the will to live their lives. The younger shall meet us all in the hereafter, and every decision shall be judged. The mages have their own burden to bear, their own trial to overcome, and that trial is their power. They must overcome it, or fail and face punishment at the foot of the pillar. Jeanne leaps to her feet, anger burning in her tearful eyes. And what if the Inquisition finds her? They'll burn her at the stake. And then what? Before that happens, Jeanne should talk to her friend and explain her situation, you say. Jeanne must take care of her and teach her how to hide her power. The best way for a witch to stay alive would be to flee Eterna and join a traveling troupe. Jeanne thanks you. Her voice rings with calm confidence now. She sees that firm faith does not mean zealous dogmatism, you realize. She has had to break the law for the sake of love. The twins are law, but the twins are also love. She has become steadfast in faith. It certainly appears that young James has an effect on people around him. Our scheming has increased, somewhat unexpectedly. A special occasion, Alice's death is prevented. We shall see what effect this will have on the future. Feast of the Air. The capital is preparing for a great celebration. The coming of age of Gerion Tempest, heir to the throne. Ribbons and flags flutter in the wind. The streets are scrubbed clean. The scent of flowers fills the air. You too set aside some time to join the celebration. It's not often that you can see the ruling family of the Empire firsthand. The celebration day comes and Eterna is abuzz. A festive procession starts on the streets. Students from the college and cadets from the military academy march in front, lined up in columns, and other citizens follow suit. You join the parade around the tail of the procession. Before long, it reaches the square in front of the Emperor's palace. The ruling dynasty of Tempests observes the palace from the palace balcony. They are joined by the Empire's highest dignitaries and province overseers. For the first time in your life, you see Emperor Arthur II with your own eyes, there, high up above. The columns of college students and academy cadets come to a halt at the balcony and salute the Emperor with their mottos. The Emperor raises his hands in a gesture of benevolent greeting, and then his voice echoes across the square. You can hear him easily, even from so far away. I accept your gratitude, my loyal subjects. Take pride as you wield your knowledge and valor in service of the Empire. All who are worthy will be ennobled by the mantle, by my grace. The nobles-to-be cheer the Emperor's words, but then Archduke Monroe steps onto the balcony. Their jubilation gives way to murmurs of discontent. Everyone here remembers all too well how the ruler of Monia tried to shut down the college by force. Still, the Archduke is the de facto leader of the Agnian gentry. He is a force to be reckoned with, even for the Emperor. Hail your Emperor, common folk, and be forever obedient and grateful for the good graces you do not deserve by birth. But then everyone grows silent. A young, slender Agnian with a shy smile comes forth. There are whispers in the crowd. And that's Prince Gerion, heir to the throne, student of Cornelius, promise and hope of the common estate. To the left of Gerion is his younger brother Flavius. He is baffled at the sight of the parade below, too young to process what he is seeing. May the twins be kind to you, my future subjects. I promise to repay you in kind and help you prosper in your loyal service to the Empire. Exalted by these words, the nobles-to-be roar as one. All hail Prince Gerion. Another figure steps into view next to the heir. He is an Agnian, elegantly dressed, and his mantle bears the Tempest colors. He raises his arms, about to make a speech. It is Gaius Tempest. I don't think we know him yet. Long live Prince Gerion. Students of the college, cadets of the academy, time and again you have proven yourselves to the Empire by word and deed. Today is a day of great celebration, and in honor of Prince Jerian, you must ask the Emperor to forever guarantee the right of distinguished common folk to be ennobled by the mantle. So ask now. The cadets and students freeze in hesitation. They exchange glances, unsure whether to follow the words of the Emperor's own brother. On the balcony high above, Prince Jerian also remained still, listening to every reaction from the crowd. Archduke Monroe briskly steps into the view once more. He takes several seconds to observe the crowd before he speaks. Imperial subjects, what the Emperor's brother wishes to say is that you must always remember that you owe your status to the Tempest dynasty. The Emperor accepts your gratitude and sends you off with his blessing. You may leave now. Commotion murmurs spreads across the crowd as some of the nobles-to-be refuse to follow Archduke Monroe's order. There are shouts heard here and there. The law! We ask for the law! The academy officers and teachers of the college urge them to fall in line and resume the parade. The tension is rising. The crowd so slowly grows enraged and unruly. An Imperial Guard cavalry regiment emerges from the palace. They start slowly advancing on the crowd, hands on their swords, pushing people out of the square. The commoners are now running left and right. You too have to move away. This quickly quells the commotion in the square, and the cavalry withdraws. Emperor Arthur II appears on the balcony again. Archduke Monroe stands by his side. The square falls silent at the sight of the sovereign. My subjects, I can see how overjoyed you are for Prince Jerian. But your show of reverence and gratitude was clear enough. Now obey my will. Continue the parade and sing the praises of the Tempest dynasty that has given you so much. The square obediently lines up in columns once again. The bout of defiance is in the past now, and they resume the festive parade through the city streets. Glory to Emperor Arthur. Glory to Prince Jerian. The old order has gained power. Letters from home. There are days when you receive letters from home. Father's writing is very reserved. He mostly discusses events and work in Magra and writes very little about the family. It makes me proud that I have managed to teach Stephen how to handle our affairs at home. The older brother behaves impeccably at the society balls and the receptions that we host. He has already made several crucial acquaintances. But Gloria has a different opinion of Stephen. She thinks the older brother is taking more and more after grandfather. Stephen is a lot like grandfather. It is in his manners, his posture, his voice. He even dresses just like him. He used to be a love around me, and we barely talked in the past. But now he always blames me and tears me apart. I can't take it anymore. He walks all over me all the time and treats me like a housemaid. Mother writes to you. From her letters you learn that Nathan just barely managed to graduate from school. It makes me sad to admit that Nathan has none of the talents you have. The other day he told me he won't even try to study in the capital. He says he won't be able to pass the exams. I find solace only in the nights Nathan and I spend together reading the scriptures and our walks to the church by the silver tree. He accompanies me every time. Her sister and younger brother write about mother too, and they say the same thing about her health. She now spends more time locked away in her chambers to brood. Gloria does her best to accompany mother when she leaves home, and Nathan's letters mention her steps echoing in the halls in the middle of the night. There's one more thing Nathan mentions in his letters. Stephen and Gloria have been fighting very often these days. Stephen always tries to get under Gloria's skin, and she answers him in kind. Then Stephen calls her lowly commoner to make her shut up. And this is the case even though, according to our statistics, our family is one step away from being perfectly united. We can only imagine how bad things would be at home if the family was divided. You always tremble in excitement each time you see a new letter with the seal of your home province. Your fate is still bound tightly to your families, no matter the distance between you. Our relationship with Stephen has worsened. Same with Gloria. Same with Nathan. Likely just because as a result of our time spent apart from them. If you don't see someone for years, of course your relationship with them will grow weaker, even if you keep on to your positive view of them. The months fly by now. Every day at the seminary is filled with study and work. You are being trained to live by your new lot. There can be no rest from service to the twins. You are well acquainted with your instructors now, and with each passing day you come closer to being their equal. Every month you and your class learn more about the sacred scriptures and the life and routine of the church and how to guide others to live by their lots. You learn about the founding of the church and the 3 councils at which the twins' first disciples first established the dogmas of the faith. When the first council met, they pronounced that the twins' faith would be the only faith throughout the empire for all eternity, and that the Tempest dynasty would rule the land by their will, for they were chosen by the gods. The first council also condemned all magic within the empire, other than the wonders sent down by the twins themselves. The Inquisition was created to enforce the order established by the twins and cleanse all heresy and sorcery from hearts, minds, and bodies. Mages and witches were offered 2 choices. They could either accept the collar and reject their powers, or perish in the ritual of purifying flame. When the second council met, the Holy Order was founded. It became the mighty sword wielded by the church against its enemies. Nobles who sought to serve the twins with their arms formed the ranks of this order. When the third council met, 2 books of Prophet Isaiah and the accounts of the twins' own lives were deemed the sacred scriptures of the faith. It was then pronounced that no more councils would ever be convened, so that the foundations of the faith would never be warped. This is not the way it went for Christianity. In fact, one way to distinguish between branches of Christianity is by which was the last ecumenical council that they accept as true. Most branches of Christianity accept the Council of Nicaea, the one with the Nicene Creed, Credo in unum Deum, I believe in one God, and so forth and so forth. But I think the Syrian Christian and the Coptic Christian churches of the Levant and Egypt, respectively, broke away before this council. Then there are further, maybe 2 or 3, that are shared by the Catholic and Orthodox, Greek Orthodox churches. And at some point, the Greek Orthodox stopped accepting the Latin councils. And then there are further few that are shared by the Catholic and Protestant churches. And then, of course, after the Protestant Reformation, any councils held after that are not accepted by the Protestants either. I don't think the Protestants have any ecumenical councils, and I'm not sure if the Orthodox have any. The only series that I am familiar with is the Catholic one. For example, the latest ecumenical council decided that the Catholic Church would no longer hold Mass in Latin and instead would use the vernacular language, so the language of the people of the area. So Italian or Spanish or French or whatever. The main dogmas of the faith are the same for everyone. However, the seminary students prepare for the lot that lies ahead in different ways. Some of them study the scriptures, spending hours at the temple every day, attending every sermon, and mastering the art of preaching. Jean often appears among their ranks. These preachers ardently follow the age-old traditions and dogmas, doing everything just as it was done hundreds of years ago. Others, you call them supplicants, rarely attend sermons, but spend plenty of time in the prayer rooms and temples and by the altars. You know, these supplicants are seeking the twins within themselves and looking for them in the signs and revelations they experience. There are still others who are never seen during sermons or in prayer rooms. You only see them during lessons, and when the lesson is over, they cross the gate of the seminary and disappear into the city, often waking you up when they return in the small hours of the night. The secret society, you call these students who are clearly united by a shared mystery. There are only a handful of them. When they meet, they sit at the same table and speak in hushed whispers, falling silent if anyone tries to approach them. You have not joined any of these groups yourself. For now, you spend your days and nights in study. Today is yet another ordinary day at the seminary. You sit in the common room, reading a book, when Jean approaches you. Why are you always alone with your books? You should learn from your elders and attend sermons if you hope to walk the path of a priest. We can go to the next sermon together if you wish. Ah? Yes, at this time Jean is inviting us to a sermon date. You promise to consider her offer. As priests, you will be bound by the lot to the will of the twins, not the will of your instructors. Still, the will of the twins is a mystery, and their revelations are ever involute, so involuntary. They come not depending on if you want to see them, but depending on if the twins want you to see them. Come to think of it, learning from senior priests and studying their habits might be the best way to understand your lot. Lost in thought, you look at the enigmatic handful of students sitting in the faraway corner of the hall. What mystery are they hiding? What path have they chosen to walk? You need to decide what to do next. One way or another, Jean is right. Your books will never do your preaching for you. We can infiltrate them because we have willpower. This seems like something that young James would do as an exceedingly curious person, or he might join Jean, his friend at school. I'll go with infiltration. Sermons and prayers are something you already know. Right now you would rather learn something else, something new. For several days in a row you attempt to take the seat near the enigmatic seminary students. They eye you with suspicion and avoid you every time. When you realize this approach is not working, you try to ingratiate yourself with the member who seems the most eager to talk. You inquire about their secret meetings and promise to keep what he tells you a secret. He tells you nothing, but he does say that he will consult with the other members of the society. Several days later, one of the enigmatic students nonchalantly invites you to take a walk with him and the others. You nod. You are strongly warned that everything that happens there must remain a secret. You swear not to tell a soul. You are going to a sermon. One of the students whispers in your ear as you walk the streets of Eterna. But, he adds with a crafty smile, you have never heard a sermon like this before. It will turn your vision of the twins upside down. In the end, curiosity gets the better of your doubts. The students lead you to the basement of a lavishly decorated house. There are at least 50 more people in the basement hall, Many of them dressed in the latest fashion. You can even see college students among the crowd. They are all waiting for someone. Finally, a stout man with a bald spot walks up to the pulpit. He is wearing a cassock, but you notice that he is not wearing the twins' cross. He seems good-natured enough. His plain face is lit up by a serene smile. This is Father Mark. Greetings, brethren. It warms my heart to see new faces here. My name is Father Mark, and I say to you, reject the twins. Cast them aside. For a moment there is silence. You look at Brother Mark in terror, then at the seminary students who brought you here, and then back at him again. The other students are staring at the false priest with what can only be described as adoration. The truth is that there is no difference between eternal bliss and eternal suffering. We will be deprived of our will in the hereafter, deprived of our very selves, immersed within the will of the twins. There will be no we in the hereafter. Our existence and our freedom exist only in the here and now. We exist only so long as we live in this world. If we resign ourselves to the lots, if we resign our lives to the will of the twins, we willingly deprive ourselves of one of our chances to live, of our one chance to live, even in the short time we are allotted. We can only be our true selves and live our lives to the fullest if we reject the gods and cast away the burden of the lots. Life is short, and so we must strive to do everything before it ends. There will be no desires after the gods judge us, nor will there be any way to fulfill them in the hereafter, for we will have no will of our own. Our will exists only now, so focus on worldly life, my brethren. Reject the divine law and write your own law here in this world. Father Mark's speech is long, very, very long, and his mellow expression never changes. This man is a heretic, yet everybody admires him so much. After some time you start thinking there might be a kernel of truth in what he is saying. Every person lives their life bound by the lot, by tradition, by duty, by honor. Your entire life is predetermined, whether you like it or not, and an opportunity to cast off this burden and seek a different way feels fascinating, even thrilling. Father Mark is a splendid orator. His words are simple and powerful, and none of them fall on deaf ears. You cannot help but feel respect for this man, even if you cannot accept what he is saying. You keep thinking about his outlandish sermon after your return to the seminary. The sermon was like a breath of fresh air. It gives you a glimpse of the very freedom Father Mark was talking about. You broke the rules, you strayed from the choices they wanted you to make. You sought some other answers, sought something unlike the common knowledge truths, and you liked it. Tonight you felt alive, you felt emotion, you were outraged, you were enchanted. You were a part of this world, and the world gave you the strength to keep on living. Our diplomacy and scheming have improved. Neither of these are particularly useful to us as a priest, but they may be useful in some events. 19th year. The Overseer of Magra. Two major events take place while you are busy living your life. Firstly, Cornelius Tempest is no longer the great chancellor of the empire. He has been ousted and sent back to his province. His replacement is the Archduke of Monia, Egerius Monrogue, the same Monrogue who sought to shut down the college, the most powerful lord in the realm, finally convinced the emperor that his brother Cornelius was giving too much freedom to the lowborn. Now the policies of the empire will be reversed. Many fear that the new great chancellor will destroy the imperial code of laws and other achievements of Cornelius. There are cautious rumors among the people. They say the new great chancellor is going to revoke the right of the common lot to be ennobled by the mantle. Secondly, Magra, your homeland, now has a new overseer, Gaius Tempest, the other brother of Emperor Uther II. Usually the overseer of a province is its archduke. After all, it makes sense for the province's most powerful noble to impart the emperor's will to the locals. Yet now this age-old tradition has been broken, and to no one's surprise, Archduke Tarquinius Milanidas is absolutely furious. Gaius Tempest used to be the main supporter of his brother, former Great Chancellor Cornelius Tempest. The nobles at the emperor's court say that this is a stratagem by the Archnian gentry who want Gaius removed from court affairs along with Cornelius. Either way, Gaius Tempest and Tarquinius Milanidas will be at each other's throats over the province. This does not bode well for their future. Only one thing is clear: Magra, your home province, is about to face great changes. The public order has strengthened, and, surprisingly, the power of the commoners has again increased, although perhaps this should be read as a weakening of central power. A criminal relationship. Spring is in full bloom. The city of Eterna is a sea of flowering trees. The apple trees are particularly prevalent. You see them growing everywhere in the seminary yard alone. How nice would it be to sit here with a good book, enjoying the apple blossoms and getting lost in important thoughts. But there is no time for that. A recent incident has the entire seminary on edge. One of the senior seminary students has been accused of having a relationship with a witch. The Inquisition had been watching the girl for a long time. When the lovers met and the girl put a floral wreath on the student's head, the Inquisition spies saw it all. The lovers were immediately arrested. You hear about it from Jeanne. She looks very anxious when she comes to you to discuss the news. Are you going to watch the trial? They're only allowing priests and seminary students to attend it. We have to be there. It's an important case. We could learn so much from seeing the Holy Tribunal in action. You agree to go with her. After all, the case is highly unusual indeed. Junius Diamant, one of the leaders of the new faith, has stepped forth to defend the student and the girl. We have already met the other leader of the new faith, Luke, Patriarch of Archnia. But Patriarch Junius holds much more authority. The seminary students speak of him in hushed voices and only when the instructors are not around. Junius Diamant is more than a patriarch of one of the provinces. He is an Archnian, hailing from one of the great dynasties, and the leader of the Holy Order, the Empire's finest knights in service of the Twins Church. The prosecution will be represented by Father Ulrich. He is a powerful inquisitor, the head warden at the House of Humility, the fortress that collars all mages and subdues their will to the service of the Inquisition. You have heard of him. He is a fierce man who is ardent and merciless in service to the Twins. The day comes. The spacious courtroom is filled with people. All the seats are taken. The judges sit at a long table upon a platform. There are 10 of them, all high-ranking members of the church. To the right of them is a man in a black cassock. His head is shaved, and his back is perfectly straight. This man, Father Ulrich, the true and lawful inquisitor, will represent the prosecution. To the left of the judge's table stands an Archnian. He is wearing a white cassock with a cape of white and gold on his shoulders. The Archnian's blue hands rest on the edge of the table, and his expression is that of perfect calm. And this man, Patriarch Junius Diamant, will represent the defense. To the left of him sit the accused, a young man in a seminary uniform, and a young girl who looks like she just came back from the foot of the pillar. They are both bound in chains. Even from your distant seat, you can see that the inquisitors have shown her no mercy. The girl's face and neck are covered in bruises. There are bloody wounds on her left hand where her fingernails should be, and her right hand bears a horrible black burn. Loud voices emanate from the stalls even before the trial begins. Some chide Patriarch Junius, while others call out Father Ulrich. There are more and more of these shouts with every passing minute, and soon a judge's gavel can do very little to rein them in. The trial begins. Father Ulrich is the first to speak. Judges of the Holy Tribunal, and you, my brethren, this is an act of sacrilege beyond compare committed within the walls of our own seminary. This man is a venomous viper nurtured in the church's bosom. He defied all that is forbidden and engaged in an act of hideous lechery, already a malefaction. But worse yet, the object of his lust was an abhorrent, sinful witch. Malefaction is an evil deed, literally badly done or evilly done. The young woman in question looks up. You see the color of her eyes, vibrant, radiant emerald, green like the tender grass of spring. You recall a cautionary tale. Such eyes are the mark of a mage who holds sway over wildlife and nature. This blasphemer deserves nothing less than true death for what he has done. The walls of the church are no place for traitors and licentious filth. We who bring the will of the twins to the world may afford no weakness. As for the witch, put her in a collar and cut off her nose so that her comely appearance may never again lead the righteous man astray. With that, Father Ulrich takes his seat. The man who rises next is Patriarch Junius. He is tall as a pillar, and you feel an inexplicable power emanating from him. He takes his stand before the judges. Even before he speaks, Jeanne winces in disgust. To her, an ally of the new faith deserves neither tolerance nor sympathy. He is already drenched in sin, yet he thinks he can talk justice. Junius Diamant begins to speak. May it please the tribunal, the accusation is indeed true. The young man before us is at fault. It was his duty to convince the lady he had befriended to renounce all magic, and yet he encouraged her profane practices. But Father Ulrich's proposal is far too severe. I seek no lesser punishment for the witch. This is a matter for the Inquisition. But the young man need not be executed. His life is the subject of my debate. It was not by force that the young man now stands before us. He sought the twins entirely by his own volition, so I plead with the Holy Tribunal to spare his life. May he instead take the vows and habit of a monk, and a vow of silence, and be subject to corporal punishment. For the ways of the church are stern but fair. This young man need not lose his life in order to redeem himself. Another trial that shows the different values between our modern world and this one. An accusation flies from the crowd. So Junius favors mages and takes them under his wing in his province. Look at the man who dares doubt our lots and reject the orthodox faith. We won't let your kind gain ground in Eterna. This in turn sparks a different cry. Another voice accuses Ulrich of being drunk with the power he has acquired by enslaving those who wield magic. Here the orthodox means correct, the true belief. The Greek Orthodox Church names itself Orthodox, and I have to say it's an extremely successful branding move to get others to call your church the righteous church. Patriarch Junius attempts to pacify his followers as accusations of the Inquisitors' side keep coming. Father Ulrich marks each condemnation of Junius and the new faith with an agreeable nod, his mouth a crooked smile. The crowd begins to move. Those who side with the Inquisition start brushing against the guards to exact their own brand of justice. Junius's followers do not stand still either. They rise and form a circle around the Patriarch, as well as the man and woman on trial. Accusations fly, and the air above the crowd grows hot with boiling rage. People are pushing and shoving. You hear screams of panic among cries of outrage. You and Jean find a temporary refuge on a podium rising above the human sea. The courtroom is becoming dangerous. You must attempt to escape now, or risk being trampled. There is still time for either Patriarch Junius or Father Ulrich to say something, to calm the crowd, to remind them why they are here. But they both froze in confusion, unable to rein in the coalescing madness. Perhaps you could make your voice heard from atop the crowd, or would it be more sensible to escape the chaos of this courtroom? James will attempt to affect the world. Our eloquence is too low. We cannot demand punishment, and I do not think James would in any case. However, his theology is high enough to defend the seminary student. So, let us do that. You take a deep breath and shout. The seminary student is not a full priest just yet. He has not undergone the second sacrament. He must not be judged by the laws of the clergy. Assisting a witch is a crime, but the commoner's punishment for this crime should not be as severe as this. And then you hear the voice of Patriarch Junius above the crowd. He repeats what you said, almost word for word. This young man is still a commoner. He has not accepted his new lot yet. We cannot judge a commoner by the laws of the clergy. A monk is what he shall become, and through his prayer and his oath of silence, he shall fulfill his lot and reach the peak of the pillar. But only then. The din of the crowd dies down. The disturbance dissipates as everyone hears your words spoken with the authority of Patriarch Junius. Everyone takes their seats again and the trial continues. After a brief discussion, the judges side with the defense. Father Ulrich and the inquisitors take the girl away. The monks deal with the young man. The lovers can do nothing but exchange a brief farewell glance. All eyes are on Patriarch Junius, the man who prevailed in this case. You glance at Jeanne. Her eyes are narrow slits as she stares you down. She knows full well who said the words the Patriarch repeated. Our relationship with Jeanne has become more strained, but our valor and theology have both strengthened. The second sacrament. You wanted to speak to Jeanne again, but she disappeared the next day. Some say she was sent somewhere else to study. Strange. Why did she tell you nothing? Why did she not say goodbye? You keep waiting for news from her at first, but as the days go by, your thoughts return. Your thoughts turn to the upcoming exams and the second sacrament. All the sacred scriptures, holy procedures, and sacred hymns have been memorized long ago. You know the names of every disciple of the elder and the younger, all the patriarchs of the provinces from the very first to the present day. And, most importantly, your faith is strong and your confidence is unshakable. The exams are behind you now. On the day of your second sacrament, you come to the great temple of the twins, already dressed in a priest's cassock. Father Jeremiah holds your belt in one hand. He will conduct the sacrament. His other hand holds the sacred book. You are to kiss it to show your complete submission to the will of the twins. You approach the altar on the commoner's side. The jagged floor hurts as it bites into your bare feet, but there is a hint of pleasure in that pain. You kneel before Father Jeremiah on the lowest of the steps leading to the altar. He speaks the words of your new lot above you. Thou shalt now carry the will of the twins into the world. Whosoever cometh to thee, thou shalt give him guidance. The twins are love and will and law. Thou shalt bring it to the world. Thy new lot is to interpret the lots and give counsel in faith. The chat says, welcome to the chat room. So I imagine there has been some sort of a connection error. However, my OBS says that no frames have been dropped within the last 3 hours. So I hope that my dear viewers, you have not missed a large part of this show. Arise, priest. You kiss the book and stand up, confidence blooming within you. You now know the answers to all questions. You are now a messenger of the true words, the one who carries true understanding. You have the power to guide people towards a righteous path, to help them see the truth, to help them find answers, for the twins will it so. It's probably an issue on Twitch's side. Most likely. If you have noticed no breaks, then everything is fine. In any case, my local recording is running fine and the YouTube archive will have no break whatsoever. New strength fills you. By the grace of the Elder, you may pray to him to heal and cure those who suffer. By the law of the Younger, you may pray to him to bind your foes with his wondrous power. When no one is looking, you reach for your back. The mark of the lash is gone. You feel as though you can breathe more easily now. On the morning after, you are to conduct a sacrament for the first time. You walk into a small temple on the outskirts of Eterna. Acolytes are running to and fro, preparing for the ritual, while you repeat the words of the lots that you must tell the children. Slowly, the temple fills with people. You stand at the altar now, the sword in one hand and the lash in the other. 3 boys are to receive their sacrament today, a little nobleman and 2 low-born boys of the same age. The noble boy's parents are nervous and asks you to hurry with the sacrament, so you begin. With confidence and proper pace, you recite the words of a noble's lot to the little boy kneeling before you. Then you carefully bring the flat of the sword to his lips. The boy kisses it, and you thank the twins under your breath. Now it is time for the common children to receive their sacrament. You notice movement in the temple out of the corner of your eye. Someone is standing in the doorway. It is a silhouette of a woman. You recognize her. She looks sterner now, harsher. But the most striking feature about her now is her eyes. They are cold, yet curious. Something glints on Jean's belt now. It is the silver seal of the Inquisition. Do continue, priest. The boys stand before you, just like you and Nathan when you were boys. You were just like them at your first sacrament. The elder of the 2 kneels on the jagged floor. He winces slightly and holds back the tears. You recite his new lot for him and strike him twice with the lash. He shudders, yet humbly accepts the first suffering of his life. They bring the other boy to you next. He is kicking and squirming, and his face is red with tears. They force him to kneel, and he falls on all fours. The floor draws blood from his hands. Adult hands hold him still. Adult voices chide him angrily. You say the words of his new lot and strike him once with the lash. The lash cuts right through the boy's shirt and soaks it with blood. The boy's cries turn into screams. You raise your head slightly and notice Jean's watchful eye. She is there, waiting. You look down at the boy. He looks so much like Nathan, just as frightened, just as distraught, just as defenseless. You hesitate, unsure of what to do. The ritual must be finished. By your lot, you must bring forth the will of the twins and perform the sacrament of suffering. But this little boy huddling at your feet is so young. He will no doubt see so much suffering in his life. Perhaps you should show him that the world can be merciful too. We can strike with all our might or have mercy on the child. I don't think James would strike a small child with a whip with all his might under any circumstances. It may be dangerous with Jean watching, but we will not beat this child anymore. You lower the lash, unable to bring yourself to strike again. Then you lean over the boy and help him to his feet. The temple falls completely silent as you apologize to the boy for hurting him. Perhaps the new faith is right. Perhaps the lots are just an error made by Isacius. You want to believe this as you look into the boy's tearful face. You can feel the parents, the acolytes, and the congregation watching you in confusion. The boy gets to his feet, sniffling, and you tell him to go and live by his lot. But on the inside, you are overcome by a surge of emotion. There is a tense feeling in your chest as you think of your younger brother. You miss him so much. You cannot wait to go home and embrace your mother. The acolytes take the sword and lash away. You turn to face the altar and mutter a quick prayer to the twins for this day. You hear quiet footsteps behind your back. You know they are Jean's. A gaze burns into your back. You do not turn around. You can never show mercy if you are to carry out the will of the twins. That boy was supposed to feel the full burden of his lot. Why did you have mercy on him? Jean takes a deep breath, ready to continue her indignant tirade. The next moment, her speech is cut short by a powerful voice that would make anyone shudder. Enough, Sister Jeanne, this is not why we are here. You hastily turn around and see Inquisitor Ulrich appear in the shadows. Has he been watching you perform the sacrament this whole time? Father Ulrich, I beg you to reconsider. Brother James isn't ready to bear such duty. That is for me to decide. Jean frowns but falls silent, pursing her lips. Ulrich turns his heavy gaze to you. For 2 years I have been watching you, James, and the time has come for you to join us. Ulrich hands you a scroll marked with the silver seal of the Inquisition. Brother James, the Church is appointing you an Inquisitor. You are to return to your native land and protect our true faith against heresy. Jean pierces you with an intense stare. There is doubt in her eyes. You bow your head and accept the scroll from Ulrich's hands. Then you solemnly fasten the Inquisitor's insignia to your belt. By the will of the Church and the gods themselves, you are now a servant to the Holy Order of the Inquisition. It appears that we had no choice in this matter. Henceforth, your life belongs to the Order. You shall fight against any apostasy that threatens the Church and her flock. Cast aside your doubts, Inquisitor Brante, and be ready to fulfill your new righteous duty. Prepare yourself to set out for Anisot. A special assignment awaits you there. Sister Jeanne will accompany you as a fellow Inquisitor. She will tell you everything you need to know. With that, Ulrich abruptly turns away and leaves the temple. Your answer is not required. The will of the Church is the law, and you must abide by it. You are left alone with Jean. Your sister in faith betrays no emotions. Her words sound sharp and dry. The time has come to bid the capital farewell, brother James. We are leaving for Anisot tomorrow. With that, Jean leaves you alone in the temple. You turn back to the altar and finish your prayer. Again, our relationship with Jean has worsened. But we have gained willpower. You have received your second sacrament. You are now rightfully ordained as a priest. This also means that any rebellion against the standing order that we commit will be met with more brutal punishment than as a commoner. Diamant stands trial, and just before you leave the capital, you overhear something unusual on the street. Junius Diamant, the Patriarch of Astinia and one of the leaders of the new faith, will stand trial before a church tribunal. The Order of the Inquisition has accused Patriarch Junius of patronizing blasphemous witches and disseminating heresy. The Holy Tribunal claims that Junius Diamant was scheming to free all witches and sorcerers from the collars that fetter their accursed powers. And, what's worse, the Patriarch was also accused of forming the Lotless, a dangerous secret society based in the imperial capital. Members of this society have been assaulting inquisitors and priests of the church, as well as freeing witches from the cleansing fire and helping them escape the holy law. It appears to me that Junius Diamant is guilty of what he is charged with. The question is, do we agree that what he did was wrong or not? Now the Patriarch must face the Holy Tribunal of the Inquisition in Eterna. By all accounts, this is a devastating blow to the new faith and the end of days for Junius Diamant himself. The Inquisition will make the most of this opportunity to rid the land of this unwelcome Patriarch who dared to shake the foundation of the old faith. But then comes the sudden news of Patriarch Junius's reply to the Holy Tribunal. It is no less stunning than the accusation. If you are wondering why I seem to be lost in thought, it is because I had an idea about Patriarch Junius's family name, Diamant. This of course reminds of diamond, which comes from the Greek diamant something. Diamantis, yeah, maybe. I do not speak Greek, so I am not very certain of this. Means unbreakable. But the way that it is spelled here may be a pun, because amant or amante means loving, so it might be possible to pass his family name as lover of two. So, assumably the twins. These words are nothing but lies. I will say this to anyone who dares to bring this accusation against me in person. I want those hypocrites to bear the full weight of their responsibility for this slander against me, my flock, the Diamant dynasty, and the Holy Order. I agree to stand trial before the Holy Tribunal, but I will face them on my own land and on my terms. Patriarch Junius has already received strong support from Patriarch Luke and many priests across Agnia. Priests of the new faith throughout the empire are now speaking out in support of Junius Diamant. The Church of the Twin Gods is about to be rent in twain. Never pun. Perhaps. And the reason that I was lost in thought was that I was trying to find an example where duo, for the Latin for two, would be rendered as D in English. I couldn't think of any straight away, but that naturally doesn't mean that there aren't any. The Inquisition has no choice but to revoke the trial in order to avert the coming schism. The new official stance is that Patriarch Junius has been wrongly accused, and the Holy Tribunal will now apply more cautious judgment during any further trials against the followers of the new faith. Following the teachings of Patriarch Fotis is no longer seen as a heresy by the Inquisition. This is an interesting turn, particularly for us as a potential follower of the new faith. Perhaps we will not face such far-reaching problems and consequences for fulfilling our office as Inquisitor in a somewhat different way than our employer perhaps intends us. The trial of Junius Diamant has been averted, but the divide within the church is only deepening. The new faith has directly challenged the old faith. The result is uncertain, depending on who you ask. Some say Junius Diamant all but pled guilty. Others believe the Patriarch and the alleged rebellion against the church, as well as the Inquisition, is nothing but a ruse. There are also people who think the entire situation sounds like one of the secret chancellery's dirty deeds. One way or another, the Patriarch of Astinia and co-leader of the new faith remains at his post. But for how long? And how will the old faith and the new faith clash next? The standing of the new faith has weakened, oddly enough. A farewell to the capital. The Reglata and Talreina rivers meet outside the city walls. You have barely left the capital since you came here all those years ago. The breeze is blowing in your face, and the bright noon sun hangs above the shining pillar. Your stay in Eterna has come to an end. You arrived here a boy, full of hopes and aspirations, driven by your family's expectations and a desire to live your life as you saw fit. And now you have to leave, and this thought fills you with gentle sadness. Eterna did not become your home, and yet here you realize that you can be a messenger between the will of the twins and the people. You are the hand that shows the way, the interpreter of the gods, the man who guides others to the peak when they depart for the hereafter. You have never felt so close to the twins, but now you carry within you the love and wisdom of the elder, and the law and power of the younger. After your second sacrament, you started seeing the twins' presence in this world everywhere. What will you see back in your hometown, or by the silver tree? You have been chosen to serve the Inquisition. Now you are more than a mere priest. You are a shield of the Church that wards away its enemies and false doctrines. A pain in your chest, right under the twins' cross, echoes this thought. The schism between the Church and the new faith began in Anisot. But the city is still your home. Changes are coming, and as an Inquisitor, you will have to face them. You think of Sister Jeanne often. She was our only companion during the years of study at the seminary, and now she will teach and assist you in your service to the Inquisition. What is the connection between you? Who will you become for one another? You exhale and close your eyes, feeling the riverside wind blowing into your face. Many things now must have changed back home by now. Does mother still pray the twins 3 times a day? What about the others? They used to repeat the sacred words after her back then. What about now? Nathan probably follows mother's example. Every letter he has sent you has been filled with elation over your choice of the priest's lot. Nathan failed to enter the seminary of Anisot. He said he got too nervous, and wrote that he was ashamed of not being able to follow in your footsteps. But being ashamed of failure is against the commoner's lot, he wrote back. The commoner must humbly accept failure, just as he would accept any other kind of suffering. You should cheer Nathan up by bringing him a souvenir from the capital that will remind him of you, a token of love that says you believe in him. After giving it some thought, you head to the temple for a prayer book. You find the great temple of the twins surrounded by the usual calm and quiet. There are no loud voices coming from the people, no loud cries from the virgins. You approach a small bookstore by the temple grounds and examine the prayer books one by one. You search for one with the proper prayers for everything Nathan needs, for the good of the family, for humility, for meekness, and for following one's lot. A small book finds its way to you. A sturdy leather cover feels good in the palm of your hand. You thumb through the prayer book and nod. Everything you are looking for is here. You leave the capital in the morning in a carriage hired by the Inquisition. Eterna, the city where you spent 4 years, slowly disappears on the horizon. Will you ever see the capital again? You do not know. The prayer book is in your hands. Our relationship with our younger brother has strengthened again. Homecoming. After 4 years in the capital, you return to your home city of Anisot. The end of youth. The years of your youth have come to an end. The time has come to leave the capital behind and return to your family and new business in your hometown of Anisot. The years away from home were full of tumult and hardship. Your adult shoulders now bear the burden of your first life-changing decisions. Did you have the freedom to choose this lot by yourself, or was it your destiny all along, ever since your childhood years? All you can do now is follow the path that lies before you. End of chapter 3. The years of youth are at an end. The time has come to leave the capital behind and return to your family and new business in your hometown of Anisot. Or is this exactly the same? Oh, let's skip it. Special occurrences were becoming a priest, becoming eternal friends with Thomas, and rescuing Alice, who we have not yet met. Our theology is quite good, and I am sure it will increase in the future. Our eloquence is alright, not perhaps the best. But we can continue. 20 years, peacetime. And this is where we will end for today. Thank you everyone for coming. I will now check to see if someone I am familiar with is streaming. It appears that Carmine Phlegeton is here, and he is reading Dies Irae, which I alluded to. This game is named after the religious poem and uses Verdi's music set to Dies Irae as a sort of theme tune to itself. So, time to stop recording.